Here we go. Welcome to Wednesday on the AM show. Benjamin and Bernice doing the usual, hosting you this morning on the AM show. Thank you for your company. We're grateful that you always choose us to start your morning with. Well, coming up this morning, the news, of course, shortly, but then political scientist and director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, is our guest, and from there we'll be serving you sports. But right after that, the minority in Parliament is pushing for an immediate introduction of a debt ceiling to curb government's excessive borrowing as Parliament approves more than $700 million in loans at an emergency sitting. We'll also be focusing, of course, on the nomination of Justice Gertrude Tokonu as the next Chief Justice. Also coming up today, we're going to be giving you some roundups on the economy, and joining us for all of these discussions, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamakbo, a Member of Parliament, South Dai. Dr. Kingsley Nyako is Member of Parliament from Kwada. So it's been a while since we saw them. They'll be back on the show this morning. But also coming up, we'll tell you about Goethe Abansoro. Yes, Abansoro. It's an event by the Writers Project of Ghana. It's a night to appreciate literary skills, and it takes place tonight from 7 p.m. We'll bring you more details of that later on the show. That's what the show looks like this Wednesday morning. But of course, being the midweek, you can also expect us, courtesy of EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, to come your way with AM Business. And today, aggrieved customers of defunct Gold Coast Fund Management are giving the Securities and Exchange Commission a 3-day ultimatum to pay their locked-up funds. We'll be telling you more about that on the show as we take your calls and have you share your views with us via our live stream. And of course, I'd love to see this in sports. The LA Lakers taking game one, 117-112 against the Golden State Warriors. Even if Muftau Nabila doesn't mention that, I'll have to make him do something on that. All of that on the AM show this morning. Stay for the news. Well, let's get to our first story now, and of course we're talking politics. An NDC flag bearer hopeful, Dr. Kwamna Dufour, says his reason for contesting the upcoming primaries is to make all Ghanaians prosperous, since he has what it takes to win the 2024 polls. The former finance minister will on May the 13th face stiff competition from frontrunner John Dramani Mahama and Kojo Bonsu. Joseph Akabley of our political desk now reports.
I would ask them to help me fix the economy. Right now, the biggest challenge we are facing is the economy. We are all hungry. We are hungry as people. There are tears in the eyes of Ghanaians everywhere. They should help me wipe the tears from the eyes of Ghanaians, soothe the pain in the hearts of Ghanaians. That requires a leader with the courage to change things, to change the status quo. That's what I will do.
The state of Ghana's economy remains a major concern to the man touted for his economic prowess. He comes into the race with a vast experience as a former governor of the Bank of Ghana and a former finance minister. He believes he can turn around the economy.
Every Ghanaian, no matter the birth of his or her circumstances, should have equal opportunity in our system to achieve whatever he or she wants to achieve. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. That dream will bring about prosperity and happiness. That dream will make all of us become very patriotic. That dream will make us be loyal to Ghana, our motherland, not to any political party or to any individual. Because we're not loyal to our nation, because we're not very patriotic enough.
But this won't come easy. You'll have to first win the May 13 primaries. He will face off with former President John Dramani Mahama in Kojo Bonsu. The Economist Intelligence Unit in its April 2023 country report on Ghana noted that the NDC can revitalize its prospect of electoral victory with a new candidate such as Dr. Kwabena Dufour. The former finance minister believes he stands a better chance.
I'll ask my colleagues to help me do that. No one person solves a problem. And no one person is big enough to do anything. That's why in the Bible, the Creator himself, when he was creating a man, said, let us create what? Let us. In the Bible, the Lord never said, I. No, he said, let us. He could have made man himself, but he said, let us create a man in our own image. What was the meaning? I want the NDC people to join me. We should all move forward, fix the economy, work together for the prosperity of this nation.
He has so far introduced the Ahoto project geared at making resources available to the party at the grassroots level. In a store of various parts of the country, he assures delegates he has more for them.
We will make sure that the party structures will be strengthened, that the workers in our offices will be well remunerated. Because, as we said, I see a regional offices, regions, the constituency of the society building, because MP before will be baby, you need to be arranged. And so, we are bigger than the group. We have to strengthen our party, make sure that at every constituency we have our own offices.
Only time will tell if Dr. Kwabena Dufour will be able to win the May 13 primaries.
Now, a businessman, Frank Ankuche, is urging the National Democratic Congress to cash their hopes on him to rescue the Hohoe parliamentary seat from the governing New Patriotic Party. He says he has the capacity to contribute to the development of the constituency and the growth of the NDC. He disclosed that projects and programs contained in his Agenda for Restoration and Jobs and More manifesto would promote youth development and make the NDC appealing to constituents. Here's Fred Kwame-Asari's report.
Mr. Ankuche's Agenda for Restoration and Jobs and More manifesto covers areas of job creation, capacity building, skills development, education, agriculture, industry, and economic growth. He and his team aims at delivering these policies and programs within a year after his election to represent the people of Hohoe in Parliament. He threw light on the introduction of an insurance policy to reward branch and constituency executives.
I've done a health insurance policy for all the delegates, which I would say the whole country, an individual doing health insurance policy for the delegates is the first time. And that's the kind of reward system our executives always complain about. Because the party in Hohoe normally says that they've worked. People say they've worked and they have nothing to show for. And those were part of the reasons we lost our 2020 elections. Because delegates were peeved, they were angry with the fact that they've worked for the party several years and they've not received anything for that. So I've come in with an agenda for restoration and jobs. And restoration means what? We want to restore the party to its past glory. All the people that are angry, that have left the party, the delegates, the executives that have been working for the party, that people don't, recognize them. I've brought a policy or policies that will give them some recognition, give them some opportunities, give them some relief. Hence the introduction of the health insurance policy.
Mr. Ankuche said his contribution to the growth of the party proves beyond all reasonable doubt that he would deliver the Hohoe seat to the NDC in 2024.
For all, I would like to tell my followers to engage in clean campaigns and tell the delegates that the best candidate, the only one that can match John Peter Amewu, because they can see my work, they can see everything I'm doing in this constituency. The only person that can match John Peter Amewu is me, Frank Ankuche. So they should look at the things I'm doing, the things I've done in the past, my track record, and vote for me so that I can continue the good works I'm doing. 2024 elections is not going to be about rhetorics. It's not going to be about just talking, but it's going to be someone who will bring in action. It's going to be more of action and less talk. So I'm in for action. I am doing it, and I'll continue to do it. So delegates should look at me and vote for me based on what I've done for the party and my track record, and me as the only one that can take the seat back for the party.
He faces competition from Christine Afifi-Akpoe, Theophilus Kojoji Megan, Thomas Wolanyo Chekpo, Kondobre Victor Herman, and Vera Haibo. Fred Kwame Asari, JoyNews, Hohoe.
Or staying on the political front, the minority in Parliament is pushing for the immediate introduction of a debt ceiling after Parliament approved more than $700 million in loans at an emergency sitting on Tuesday. Both former Minority Leader Haruna Iddrisu and the current Minority Leader Dr. Kasiala Tuforsen say there must be an immediate introduction of a debt ceiling to curb excessive borrowing of successive governments, with Ghana's debt stock hovering around 600 billion Ghana cedis. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante now reports.
At a one-day emergency sitting, up to 8 loans and financing agreements were approved by the House, totaling more than $700 million. Former Minority Leader Haruna Iddrisu insists a debt ceiling must be introduced immediately.
We must say no to further borrowing by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and by Ken Ofori-Atta. This House must stand strong in saying that we will not approve of any additional borrowing. Whether it's concessionary is what you have wheeled the economy to the nadir of failure, and therefore coming to ask for additional borrowing, that the Parliament of Ghana is comfortable to grant approval for a loan when you have borrowed to over close to 100% of GDP. Where does this happen in the world? This House, I have said it before, if the Majority Leader will recall, even this Parliament must make sure that as a rule of thumb into the future, not just this administration, governments will come and go, presidents will come and go, there must be a debt ceiling in this country.
Current Minority Leader Dr. Kasiala Tuforsen had also pushed for a rejection of all these agreements put before MPs.
Mr. Speaker, I do not believe that now is the time for us to take additional loans. Speaker, as we speak, our country is simply insolvent. Mr. Speaker, we have defaulted in the repayment of our external debt. We have also defaulted in the repayment of our domestic debt. Aside that, just last week, one of the rating agencies that Ghana government has contracted has downgraded Ghana to restrictive default. Mr. Speaker, simply put, we are in a deep hole. Mr. Speaker, what I know is that when you are in a hole, the first thing you do is to stop digging.
His colleague, the Majority Leader, Oseche Mensah Bonsu, agreed with this position in principle.
My former colleague, the Minority Leader, was talking about the fact that we should not borrow excessively beyond a certain threshold. I agree with him. And I've argued in this House that, yes, Parliament should make a determination on this. How to actualize it is a difficulty. We cannot just say that we should not exceed a ceiling or a ratio, a debt to GDP ratio of, let's say, 70%. And then we say that a government comes, it borrows up to 70%. The next succeeding government has no space. So they should not be allowed to borrow for development. 6 loan agreements, 1 on-lending agreement, and some revenue bills. These are the matters that excited Parliament's attention at this emergency meeting. $60.6 million as a third additional financing for COVID-19, $150 million to finance the West Africa Food System Resilience Program, $30 million to finance medical equipment provision project in response to COVID-19, $150 million to finance primary healthcare investment project, and a number of loan agreements, all now passed. About $710 million now added to Ghana's debt stock. The minority have concerns. Of course, they lost the vote when it came to it
on the floor of Parliament because they simply did not have the numbers, unlike their colleagues on the majority side. But they are warning that if this debt continues being piled on, Ghana will get to a position where its economic destruction will simply be irreversible. Parliament has adjourned sine die again, and it's expected that by the end of this month, Parliament will now resume properly so-called to deal with matters of national concern. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
And our next story, pressure is mounting on telecom companies to answer how multiple strange numbers have been linked to people's Ghana cards. Customers are questioning the integrity of the re-registration exercise, wondering how safe their cards and biometric data are following the flaws discovered with the system. Government commenced the mandatory exercise in 2021, hoping to put together a proper SIM card registry. Here's a News Desk report explaining how the exercise was initiated.
I therefore take this opportunity to urge all who've not registered or are yet to register their SIM cards to do so. The deadline of 31st July is a few days away. It will not be extended.
The stern warning from Minister of Communications and Digitalization, Esla Owusu Ekufo, urging people to partake in the mandatory SIM card re-registration. The exercise took off in October 2021, targeting 26 million Ghanaians with the aim of setting up a central SIM registry and ridding the system of fraud.
We must make it difficult for the criminals who hack our systems and defraud us through multiple online channels to operate. And this SIM registration exercise is one of the steps the government is taking in that regard.
For the process, one could only register with a Ghana card. No other identification, be it passport, birth certificate, is accepted. Government believes that the Ghana card was the only access trusted for the process.
After extensive engagement with identified stakeholders, the following modalities were put in place to guide the implementation of the SIM registration exercise. The use of Ghana card for registration of SIMs in accordance with National Identity Register Regulations 2012 LI 2111 and Subscriber Identity Module Registration Regulations 2011 LI 2006.
However, this particular rule led many who did not have the cards, through no fault of theirs, marginalized. More so, those who had it were subjected to long queues and other challenges with equipment and software at various registration points across the country.
I haven't decided to jump so much, but it's like, you know, I'm at work now and I've been waiting to register with the MTN. They said the network is down. I need to go back to work and I can't waste so much time there. And since I heard the Vodafone one is at least moving a bit faster, I just wanted to, you know, get a new SIM then.
However, a major challenge the ministry was trying to avoid has seeped through the process where unapproved numbers have been linked to people's cards without their knowledge, questioning the integrity of the process. Adum News editor Martha Krentel Aqua is one of the many victims. Up to 16 more SIMs have been registered with her Ghana card without her knowledge.
Immediately the short code was activated, I decided to check how many numbers my Ghana card has been linked to. To my surprise, I had 6 Vodafone numbers linked to my card. I don't use Vodafone. I had 9 Airtel Tigo numbers linked to my card. The only Airtel Tigo number I have is not even on the list. And I had 2 MTN numbers also linked to my card. Of the 2, one is mine, the other is not mine. So, you know, there were 17 numbers linked to my Ghana card. Of the 17, only 1 belonged to me.
But how did we come to this? How many people able to link SIMs to Ghana cards without the knowledge of the card owners? And who did the linking?
Now, the Forestry Commission says the quality of Ghana's vegetative cover has declined due to excessive degradation, including illegal mining activities. At least 34 out of more than 200 forest reserves have been identified as hotbeds for such activities. CEO of the Forestry Commission, John Alote, has been speaking on the state of Ghana's forests at a news conference here in Accra.
Illegal mining remains a major concern to many as water bodies and vegetation cover remain the worst hit by the menace. The Forestry Commission says the quality of Ghana's vegetation cover has declined due to excessive degradation, including illegal mining activities. At least 34 out of more than 200 forest reserves have been identified as hotbeds for such activities. John Alote is the Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission.
To go into the details, we realize that the closed forest was 1.4 million in 2015. As we speak today, it has reduced to 1.2 million. Whilst the open forest has increased from 4.3 million in 2015 through 6.5 million in 2019 to 6.6 million. What it means is that whilst the total size of the forest is increasing, the quality of the forest is reducing, which means that there are more open spaces. The canopy is reducing. What it also means is that we are getting more forest area that has gone through excessive degradation. What it means also is that if you have the forest, we are losing more of the content of the forest, but not the size of the forest.
He also disclosed that illegal miners are now using sophisticated weapons to fight officers of the commission, which is causing a major setback to the work of the commission against illegal mining.
The red is an area where we have active illegal mining activity happening. And these are areas where the Forestry Commission is finding it very difficult to deal with the illegal operators. They are in large numbers, they have large number of machines, and they've recruited armed security. So whilst you have a team working in the night, you have another set of team carrying arms, most of the time AK-47, and guarding those who are working. And I would like to also explain that most of these weapons that they are carrying are not the weapons that the Forestry Commission can contest with. They are carrying AK-47 that can travel about 3 kilometers. Whilst the weapons we are having, the semi-automatic, can only go about 300 meters. So what it means is that to be able to fight these guys, you have to get closer to them, at least within 300 meters, to be able to deal with them. Meanwhile, from 3 kilometers away, they can shoot you. And we can give you the statistics of the number of our workers who have been attacked due to the sophistication and then better power and capacity of the illegal operators in this area.
Meanwhile, Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abujinapo, has once again questioned the content of a report authored by former chairman of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng.
A suggestion that Professor Frimpong Boateng's report is sacrosanct, is scripture, with the greatest of respect to the good old professor and to his report. I don't think that is how we have to look at it. It has to be interrogated, it has to be examined, and as I said, those parts of it we can take on board, we should. Those parts of it we should jettison, we should. But at the end of the day, what is important is that we remain focused and do the work of the good people of this country.
Prince Kwame Kuduga's report read to you.
It's a wrap for the news, but stay with us. The news review up next as we host Dr. Kwame Asasante. We're back with the news review. We'll be joined shortly by Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He's a political scientist and the director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. He'll be joining us shortly. But, of course, this segment brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. We're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening as well. Now, here's where you can locate us. Here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Then, of course, Kumasi Kronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrade and Aji State Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa and Esiama Enzema. The numbers to reach Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic on 0244-867-068. That is 0244-867-068. Or you could also reach them on 0274-234-321. 0274-234-321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start of the news review as we get into the latest from the newspapers. We have Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante connecting with us now. A very good morning, Doc. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Ben. Good morning.
I hope you're well.
Very well.
All right, let's get straight into the issues. But maybe before that, as I always do, we get to do this once a week. Any pertinent matters that you've cited, whether in the newspapers or beyond, that you'd like to talk about?
Yes, I want to look at the Economic Intelligence Report and an aspect of it. Research is always important in whatever we do, because it provides the building blocks for future development. So without it, you cannot make any sound policy or statement or even a program if you don't have research. And I commend the economic intelligence over the years. They've churned out a number of reports that we have found very interesting and live up to expectation. This time around, they are predicting NDC winning the election, both presidential and parliamentary and the rest of them. I must say that I've not gone to the field to also, as it were, ascertain for myself what really exists on the ground from my point of view. So I will not be in a position to, dwell so much on what they are saying. Because from where I sit, it is also important for people like us also to hit the ground and pick some information. But having said this, there is an aspect of their report which I find very interesting and is worth commenting here. If you look at that aspect of the report which says that the NDC would need a fresh candidate, I don't seem to get that aspect. Why am I saying that? Because if you look at John Maham's performance last election, very amazing performance, incredible. Nobody thought that he would have performed that way, but he proved everybody wrong and performed creditably well, almost at winning the election. So I can understand why a report can point out that you need a fresh candidate to replace somebody who put up splendid performance last election. That would be naive on the part of the NDC, but definitely NDC is not a naive party. They are too experienced in politics and they will not want to make that mistake. It is true that the people are contesting with Mahama and the rest of them. My own former boss, Dr. Dufour, and then the other man. They are distinguished people. Yes, Kojo Bonsu. These are distinguished people. Dr. Dufour, for instance, is a very distinguished person. He has served
former finance minister, former governor of the Bank of Ghana.
Yes, and he has set up businesses. And I must say here that I was working under him for his heritage newspaper. I was the editor. So you can imagine, I know him too close. All right. But he is a man who has record. He has lived it. He has performed so well. He had a lot of businesses and the rest of them. Kojo Bonsu has also paid his dues and all that. But I must say that, yes, they are in for that contest, but Mahama lives way beyond them. Because if you look at this type of contest, you are going to elect a flag bearer who will represent the party for the national election. And one, you need records. Where are they going to get the records from? I mean, the two gentlemen. It should come from a particular government, or there are various time that they want power. And it will be on Rawlings' record, Mills's record, and Mohammed's records. So if you have worked in any of these governments, obviously you are going to depend on records of the three. And if one is around to compete with you, you cannot. So for the report to suggest that you need a fresh candidate, I ask myself, how, in terms of experience, this type of work, you need experience. And Mahama Apa, he's among the very best, if not the only well-experienced in terms of politics. If you look at the offices he has occupied as an MP, as a minister, as a vice president, as a president, all right? He's coming with a wealth of experience that no contestant can match him with this. And the name of the game is also part of what? Experience is also part of the name of the game. And then you are talking about what? Your record. Mohammed's record is there, numerous, amazing. Then you come to also look at the fact that popularity is important because of what? The simple pass the post system, that you need just one vote to cross the finish line and win your opponent. And if you look at it, every home in this country, they know Mahama and the rest of them. So how do such a report would throw out this person and said, go for a fresh person? Is it the case that you just need a fresh person? I have this funny statement that I make, that if you are playing, a team is playing full of what? The Messis, the Ronaldos, and what have you, and you want a fresh person like Asan Santi to come and join that football team. That's a joke. That's a joke. The real players are on the field. So that aspect of the report is a very interesting one. And I'm not sure that the NDC will accept that. Even the pundits and scholars like my good self, we disagree on that. And that's my position. But all in all, any important institutions such as economic intelligence group, whatever they churn out, it's worth looking at, and then work around it and also improve your lot if there is a need to do that. And it's not a report that you can jettison, but you can use it as what? A learning curve.
I also found the report interesting on that very point because, I mean, the NDC can choose to vote whichever way it will, but if you look at marketability, obviously, I mean, as students of politics, both of us, and it's interesting because it's a student to his teacher now, his lecturer, it is pretty clear. Unless something very curious happens, of course, but we'll see what happens, how the cookie crumbles on May the 13th. They also go on to talk about likely where our economy will end up in terms of the exchange rate, in terms of debt to GDP, among others. That's a conversation for another day. But let's spend just a minute on this. I found it interesting. JoyNews just posted on, I mean, it's been on our Facebook page. You can check it out and maybe give your response, those who are watching. But for you, Doc, this question was posed. What do you think is the #1 cause of poverty in Ghana? Right before we get into the papers, I want your quick take on that. What is your reflection? What do you think is the #1 cause of poverty in Ghana?
Lack of jobs.
Unemployment.
Unemployment, that's it. If I'm employed, and depending on my skills and my experience and ability, obviously I'll earn something. If not something that will, be too satisfactory for me, I'll be able to make ends meet. But if I have no job, I have nothing to start with. You lawyers will tell us that then you are putting something on nothing.
Well, and you can't build something on nothing. There must always be some basis at least. Well, let's get into the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Now, Ghana to become automobile hub of West Africa, President predicts, of course, that was as he actually launched that latest outfit. I'll be telling you a bit about that. And you would see some of them in town with "Assembled in Ghana" boldly written on them. Very good step, but when you think of the Mazin from way back and the Boafu and others that we actually put together, could we have been producing our own cars in the first place? No lease permit granted to small-scale mining companies to operate in any forest reserve. That's according to the Forestry Commission's CEO. We'll get into that story as well. Now, Galamsey fight. AG prosecutes 119 criminal cases nationwide, 727 persons involved since January 2021. This was a story we looked at yesterday. And a lot of the stories segueing into one another, because Forestry Commission CEO says there's Galamsey fight in there, and then OSP investigates Professor Frimpong Boateng Galamsey report. I just saw a tweet by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. On the back page, there's Gbese, British High Commission partner to clean Mensa Guinea beach. And I must just say this, Ghana, for many of our beaches are too dirty. These are for us, and not just for us, for generations yet unborn. Let's keep our beaches cleaner. They look too bad in many areas. Even the ones that we celebrate, I don't want to mention names, still look in some cases or in some areas filthy. I've been to countries where beaches are so neat, so pristine. In fact, you can look through turquoise water, a shade of blue, a shade of green. You can see almost to a certain depth in there. You can't say same for us, but it's doable. We can do it. Let's protect our natural resources. Nowadays, there's sand winning and people are using beach sand. Tomorrow, if the waves come, if there's some sort of tsunami, God forbid, and the same people are affected, they would cry. But they forgot that when they were eroding the beach, you are sand winning, you are taking beach sand and using it to make your blocks and all of that. What kind of thinking is that? We're destroying, Galamsey is destroying our land, our water. We're destroying everything. Sometimes I shudder about what Ghana would look like in 20, 30 years if we don't get a grip on some of these. But anyway, let's after the Ghanaian Times, I'll get to the Daily Graphic. So Ghana to become automobile hub of West Africa. That story is on page 13, Doc. And President Akufo-Addo yesterday inaugurated a newly established vehicle assembly plant of Rana Motors at Amasaman in the Gawes municipality, with a pledge to introduce sector-specific initiatives to drive Ghana's industrial transformation. The facility, which occupies 13.5 hectares of land, is the largest among the 5 vehicle assembly plants operating in the country. Currently, the plant has an operational capacity of 30,000 cars annually, rising to 70,000 when operating at full capacity. Already, the president has said that the government had waived value-added tax on the sale of domestically assembled vehicles as a strategy to drive down cost and make it affordable. Then there is also this story. OSP investigates Professor Frimpong Boateng Galamsey report, and the Office of the Special Prosecutor says it is investigating the report published by the head of the dissolved Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng. According to the OSP, the investigation, which was ongoing and far-reaching, covered other issues pertaining to illegal mining. It has therefore assured the public and civil society that it will take necessary action against all persons deemed culpable of corruption and corruption-related offences in the mining sector. This was contained in a statement signed and released by the Special Prosecutor, Kisia Jabing, and copied to the Ghanaian Times in Accra yesterday. It's interesting, though, we're talking of the OSP, and we see there the picture of Mr. Godfred Yabu-Adame, who is the Attorney General and Minister of Justice. I don't know what happened at Ghanaian Times. And there's also no lease permit granted to small-scale mining companies to operate in any forest reserve. But that's interesting, the Forestry Commission CEO saying so. As you come in, Doc, reflect as well on the fact that the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abu-Jinapor, has been saying, the Frimpong Boateng report, there may be some elements that they can work with, and there may be aspects that they have to jettison and all of that. I personally don't think government has treated this report with the seriousness it deserves. On the back of what it doesn't just point to Galamsey going on, it points to high-ranking people with their feet hands deep mired in Galamsey. Somehow anything against this administration is not the truth. It is not scripture, as Samuel Abu-Jinapor will put it. Do you feel this approach will do us any good in the fight against Galamsey? So you can reflect on the different stories we've looked at.
Never. And I share in your pain that a report like this, government want to throw it away. Any serious government whatever information you chance upon can be thrown away. Let's use this thing for purposes of analysis. Imagine that the government, through its agents, has stumbled upon information that there is somebody, God forbid, you want to, temper with this republic. In other words, to cut short the republic. You stumble upon that information. Would you say that it has to be on office letterhead? It has to be written in a certain format before you act on it? It's a good intelligence to work with straight away. So when I hear this thing, it's laughable. Then this is what you, student of law, you call it as what? Substance over form, isn't it? Is it the substance we are looking at or the form we are looking at? I mean, you can't get it. Any information that is worth, looking for or using, you use it. The lawyers will tell you that even if you need to steal that information because it's useful, why not? Why not? And this one has come to you not from any other person, but an appointed person, experienced person that the president put in charge of this same menace, and is churning out a report, and you want to throw it away. I'm sorry. You don't work like that in government. Every report counts, and then you look at it. Consider all as allegation. That is to be fair to all those who have been mentioned in the report, and then trigger an investigation to give them a day to hear the other side of the story. And that's all. And then you can take it from there. But to dismiss it as that, an aspect that you want to look at and the rest you can throw away, for me, that shows that you are not serious at all.
But shouldn't be any surprise, Doc. After all, this administration sat on this report for 2 years.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. If you look at what you have said, added to the fact that the government pusher over the years, which I have lamented about and continue to lament about, is that all that they want is praises. But nobody governs with praises all the time, because life is not made in such a fashion. There are always difficult times. All that you need to do is admit, and then begin to take important steps. But if you miss any of this, I'm afraid there's nothing good that will come out. But there's a cost to it. The cost is that the power that you are hanging on to, when the time comes for renewal of your mandate, those who have the power to renew or otherwise, I will make a decision that will not be in your favor. So I think that this will serve as a guide for them going forward, that you don't govern like that at all. Any information worth its salt must be brought onto the decks and then look at critical. That's why we pay officers to look for intelligence. That's why we pay officers to get information to help in governance, right? So what are we talking about? This information has come to you. Trigger an investigation, get into it, see, let an independent body look at it, and they will advise accordingly. But for you to throw it away, I'm afraid that's not the best.
Let's take a look at the Daily Graphic now. That front page, it says, President commissions Kia assembly plant. Parliament approves $750 million in terms of financing agreements. And there is this one, Jail Atuesian. Of course, the Atuesian being referred to here is the one tied to the banking system. I believe it is Capital Bank. And that is the story there. There is also Galamsey wipes out 4,700 hectares. 34 forest reserves affected. Cabinet sanctions special military crackdown. Yet, we're being told no lease or permits have been granted to small-scale mining companies to operate in any forest reserves. That's the Forestry Commission's CEO. But Galamsey has wiped out 4,700 hectares, and 34 forest reserves have been affected. Forest reserves. I'm not talking of just forest reserves. And Cabinet has sanctioned special military crackdown. I don't know, Doc. I really don't know. This whole bit about getting the military involved and doing this and doing that, it has not worked. It hasn't. In fact, when you read the Professor Frimpong-Boateng report, it also alludes to the fact that that was what, in doing this, sometimes they end up, I don't know the full details of that, maybe even giving some support to people who may be engaged in Galamsey, or the powers that be who may be involved in Galamsey. And that, allegedly, according to Prof, was how we even lost Major Mahama. So I'm just thinking about it. It has not worked on any front. We keep pumping money into this venture. The situation keeps getting worse. You just saw it. Galamsey wiping out 4,700 hectares. We're talking of another military crackdown and all of that. You come today, of course, sometimes the service people who go themselves are compromised. Sometimes, as we know now, there are people in establishment, people who walk the corridors of power, who are in it. So it's a futile attempt. And sometimes for the genuine ones, they go and the Galamseyers will run away. When they leave, the Galamseyers will come back. So this one, we go or we come. I don't know, Doc.
Ben, you have said it all. I have said it time and again that this fight, the state is not ready to fight. It's a very simple matter. Because from all indications, it is clear that the government doesn't want to fight it. Because this is a government, of course, legitimate government, giving all the powers to deal with such menace. I.e., you are in control of the coercive apparatus of the state. You are in control of what the legal regime, in the sense that you make laws and you enforce laws. Why can't you enforce them? All right? Why can't you enforce them? It means that there is something more to it. Because if the government is serious about fighting this, they will fight it head on. But what we are saying is just to tell the public that, yes, we have heard you, we are doing something, but they themselves don't believe in what they are doing. Because if you believe in what you are doing, right, you will put people who are, will be free to work. I saw a clip, a video on your screen, Joy screens, where they went to one of the areas and then found a structure there, and military uniforms were there. I mean, if you listen to the comment, that they were like protecting the Galamseyers. So why would you want to deceive the public into believing that you are doing something meaningful? Only to go there and you realize that they are protecting the people are working every day. And these things happen in places, all the places that happen, we have, if we don't have what, MCE, you have what, DCE. We have the police, we have the national security, we have the BNR, all going on. Is it the case that these actors are not doing their work? And I'm not holding brief for them. I will speak for them. They will do their work. For the security people, I have been so close because of my engagement with Ghana Armed Forces staff and Command College and all that. I've learned a few things. They are always everywhere and they work on time. But as to who is implementing what, the report that they churn out, that is the problem. And that is a political decision. Right. So for me, I will blame it on the politicians. They don't want to fight us. Because for BNI, they will churn in their report. For the security, they go and carry out instructions given to them by the command model and the rest of them. But as to the political will to fight it, so then it also gives you an inkling as to whether government really want to fight the battle or not. But for me, all points to the fact that the government doesn't want to fight it, period.
Let's look at the Daily Guide newspaper and some interesting stories there. Medical replies, Eno Baroni is there. I found that interesting. There's a story that says Davido dropped some laughing emojis under Medical's diss. Of course, it's interesting how it's playing out, Eno Baroni and Medical, if you're interested. Now, Tiwa Savage to perform at King Charles III's coronation concert, and the Nigerians keep flying high when it comes to some of these. But then, other stories. We're talking about Parliament approving those 6 loans to the tune of over $700 million, borrowing left, right, center. There's also science labs improve STEM education, and Lassa fever outbreak over. That's according to the Ghana Health Service. Let me just focus on these 2 stories very quickly. Minister of Education, Dr. Yawase Educhum, has stated that the government has equipped senior high schools across the country with cutting-edge science laboratories to encourage the study of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. According to him, the science labs are expected to provide the students with practical knowledge of the subject. Speaking during an inspection of educational projects in the Ashanti region, the minister stated that the government, led by President Akufo-Addo, would continue to create access for more Ghanaian children to enjoy free education and urged beneficiaries of the free SHS to take advantage of the opportunity. He admonished them to earn good marks in order to make the huge investments made in their education worthwhile. And that is the story there. Of course, we'll do all these stories and promote what the education minister says. But then when you speak to the negatives in the system, then they will say some station showed some documentary. Anyway, sent Atuesian to prison. The Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, has filed an application before an Accra High Court urging it to send founder and former CEO of defunct Capital Bank, William Atuesian, to prison for failing to pay 20 million Ghana cedis as part of an agreement which kept him out of jail. Mr. Essien was standing trial for stealing from the 620 million Ghana cedi liquidity support given to the struggling bank in 2015, which led to its insolvency and subsequent collapse, but managed to stay out of prison after reaching an agreement with the Office of the Attorney General to plead guilty, pay the amount stolen, as well as restitution. Per the agreement, he was to pay an amount of 30 million Ghana cedis by December the 1st, 2022, which had already been paid. He will then have to pay the remaining 60 million Ghana cedis in 3 installments of 20 million Ghana cedis each. Point is, he is not meeting his obligations. But, Doc, we all saw this coming, didn't we? We spoke about it and the possibility, the glaring possibility of a default. But the Attorney General defended this and went ahead with it. Now, Ghana is having its fingers burnt. Your reaction?
Oh, I think that the Attorney General knows what to do. So we will not waste my time on
And
this.
he started the process.
Yeah, if a court gives an order, they know how to execute the order. So this one, I think, is in the bosom of those who know the law. They know how to handle it. But let's move on to the issue of what the science education thing. That is a good thing. Every state that has developed based on science. Look at what science is doing, the miracle. It's amazing. So if your country is lagging behind in terms of scientific education and improvement, obviously you will not be part of the globalized world. You will only be a passenger, but the real movers and shakers of that society, you will not be part. All the things we talk about in life is based on science, medicine, health, education, and what have you. So when emphasis is on science, then it gives me a sigh of relief that we are getting there. But we shouldn't just end there. We should provide the necessary environment to support it, the teaching of science. One of the problems I have found over the years in this country is that in the area of science, you don't tend to have teachers who are qualified to handle it from the basic level up to secondary school level. Anybody who had done little of science is pushed somewhere that, you, we've seen your transcript, go and do this. Let me give you an example. If you look at the universities that we have in this country,
in fact, Doc, just to interject briefly, it happened to us. You know, once you scored a certain aggregate and all of that, they wanted you to read science. I had to put my foot down and say, I excel in the sciences and mathematics, but it simply wasn't an area I wanted to pursue in terms of a career. So I just to use myself as an example, that was what happened to me as well, and I had to put my foot down.
I have another story to tell, but that's another day. I was a science student from Pufuri as a tech.
I see.
People don't know that. I am a proper science student. But I stayed home for 9 years. Just to, later I found my way here. And the story is out there for the world to see. But it tells you that, one, we need people who will counsel people very well. Because yesterday I was talking to a friend and he mentioned my story. He said, so you also went to SecTech and started science, and if you have continued on this, what would have been the story? I said, well, because we all agree that counseling is a problem, and the university is doing very well on that in terms of counseling. But what about secondary school and then the primary school? We need people who will shape their direction, who will point to them as to the path that they should chart. That is critical. I don't know whether the Ghana Education Studies, they have that. But if they don't, I'm sure they'll begin to double their effort in that direction. If they need to strengthen that too. We need, not once you are teaching science, you should also strengthen mathematics, because science is driven by mathematics. let's look at even basic education. Who are those teaching mathematics? Once they see your transcript, oh, you did something science or something mathematical, come and teach. They are very few. Look at our universities. Only few people take to mathematics up to the final level. I remember when we were final year students, those who were studying mathematics at Legon, they were about 6. And one of friend Raymond Atafen was the only math student at 400. Can you imagine? So you ask yourself, who are those teaching mathematics in our basic schools and secondary schools? Anybody is just pushed there, apart from those a few who have studied mathematics and science go there. Anybody is pushed there to teach, and that creates a problem. So these things must be looked at critically. And then we make sure that we support the effort by giving them encouragement, awards, and scholarship. That's how you develop science. Once you build a solid base in science, we begin to put in measures to establish small industries, machines, and all that. If you listen, I am one of the people who admire Friend Pombating so much. Why? He's a man who can sit behind, somewhere and then create things, right? Create things on his own. There was a time he displayed the things that he created in his own home and all that. He was lamenting about the fact that we are not able to produce even simple tools, simple machines, and all that. This is the thing that science education that recently you and I are following news from UST, KNUST, and you see a lot of development that science is making in that. That is the way to go. Let's build a solid base in science and we'll build a solid Ghana.
And I couldn't agree with you more, because no country has developed without an industrializational push, if you can put it that way. That is what we need. Science, we need the know-how. Of course, we need the backing of the system, both the private and the public sector, to get us there. But just to wrap, we have less than a minute left, Doc. The Finder newspaper, Justice Tokonu's nomination referred to Appointments Committee for consideration. It's reflected in the Ghanaian Publisher. But there's also Economy Times. Banks post first loss as nation restructures debt, and uncertainty over IMF's $3 billion ECF. And those are the stories there. Any quick reflections in less than a minute so we can wrap?
Yeah, I am happy that we are getting a new CJ who's a woman. And when women who are qualified are put into such high offices, it gladdens my heart. Then I tell myself that, yes, my country is becoming part of the developed states. Why am I saying that? Women have been denying a lot of opportunities in this country. The story is too clear for me to recount it here. But steps like this, that we know we are not only pushing ladies into those offices, but they qualify. And for me, that is the more important thing. This woman, if you listen to lawyers, is so qualified, so experienced, and a no-nonsense type. This is the type of people who want at the bench, who will call a spade, and then use the law. That's all. So I dove my heart for, and it's my hope and prayer. He goes through the vetting, and then he come and sit as a judge and right the wrongs that we have in our judicial system. Yes.
Well, I can't wait for her, especially on the raiment or attire that lawyers have to use in court. She's had some interesting takes on that in the past. But thank you so much, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. You always make our Wednesday morning. Thank you for always joining us on the AM show. Right. Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, of course, he is a political scientist. He's head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Before we get into sports, and I'm hoping we'll do something on basketball, hopefully something in there. The LA Lakers trouncing the Golden State Warriors at their home, by 117 to 112 points. But the segment brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and they are offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening. All you have to do, go to any of their branches. Here in Accra, they are located at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Kronoma here behind the Angel Educational Complex. They are in Takrade and Ajay Estate, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa and Esiama Enzima. You'd like to call them, I'm sure. These are the numbers you can reach them on. 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. And that's how we cap off the news review. Up next, well, sports. Do stay. Welcome back on the AM show. We get busy on those big stories, and we're hosting the members of parliament this morning in our studio. But before I get to them, of course, we know the minority is pushing for a debt ceiling, a sort of capping of our ability to borrow via parliament. And that has been on the radar. We heard from the former minority leader, Haruna Idrisu. Yesterday, we heard from the current minority leader as well, Dr. Cassio Atto Forson. The majority leader, Osei Che Mensah-Bonsu, says technically he agrees with them. But when you leave a certain history in the economy and another administration takes over on the back of your borrowing, can you expect them realistically not to borrow over and beyond what you did in a bid to maintain the economy? Those are the dynamics. We'd also be looking at the nomination of Justice Gertrude Tokonu as the next Chief Justice. And of course, we're going to be focusing on other matters to do with the economy and beyond. Joining the conversation, we have Member of Parliament for Kwadaso, Dr. Kingsley Nyako. It's been a while. It's good to have him join the conversation this morning. We also have Member of Parliament for South Dai, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo. I think the other day when you had that, you had your lawyers put out that call on Shraj as far as the Professor Frimpong Boateng thing was concerned. I saw a different name, an additional name. What's the additional name? You have some other...
Eche Kwame.
Eche Kwame. Yeah. Aha. So what's the order? Roxanne Eche Kwame Nelson Dafiamekpo.
No,
Roxanne Nelson
Eche Kwame
Dafiamekpo. All right.
I used to fight WAEC over this.
Because this one, fitting all of it onto you. I have seven.
Even Parliament had to accommodate me.
They had to accommodate.
So sometimes they reduce the fonts when it comes to my name.
I see. That's an interesting dynamic. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming.
It's a pleasure to be
Doc,
here. And of course, my
good to have you.
My brother, Dr. Nyako.
Mobile show, no so actually.
But yeah, bodies too.
Right from Kivat.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
I see. And you guys have been at it till now. Were you doing student politics?
I did. He didn't. He was a thorough academician. You know, we were a mixture of.
So a little surprised he's ended up where he's ended up as an academic.
You know, he eventually had to serve at the National Accreditation Board. So I wasn't surprised that he ended up there.
Right.
And then, and then the government decided to sponsor him to come to Parliament.
I see that mode has been activated very early. Let me move on from there. Gentlemen, thank you for joining the conversation. Today is going to be always hard. We're going to get into the issues. We'll do a bit of buga, but let's sanitize.
On Joy, it is pure
you no longer do buga.
Joy, it is pure academia.
So what do you do buga?
Joy, it is pure academia. I mean, this is a very serious platform.
Academia. Why do I feel you're already digging at Dr. Nyako? But let's start from the end that I always want to kickstart matters from. Your constituencies. How are they faring? It's been a while, Dr. Nyako. It's been a while to Roxanne. I'll start with you, Dr. Nyako.
Okay.
What is Kwadaso like? What is changing in Kwadaso? Are things getting better in Kwadaso?
Yeah, so Ben, very good morning to you. And my very good friend and brother, Roxanne. And let me say very good morning to your cherished viewers. You know, it's true. Since the beginning of this year, I've not been here. So it's a privilege, as always, to be here. My constituents, Kwadaso, by the grace of God, things are picking up. You know, I've been a member of parliament for 2 years, and there are some improvements in the constituency in terms of road infrastructure. Some roads have been built. Others are ongoing, and I'm optimistic that the outstanding ones will also be addressed by us through the government. Other programs, for example, last week I did some donation to the Ministry of Education where ICT equipment were given to some selected schools. Talking about 50 tablets for each school, 2 schools involved, so about 100 projector, and also a laptop for the ICT teacher, and other equipment were given. As we speak, quite as a constituency, I'm building a police station in a community called Pokukrom. It's almost done.
Called what? Bokrom?
Pokukrom. Yeah.
Okay.
So building a police.
You're building a police station.
Yeah, it's almost done. It's about 98% complete. It is being painted right now. There's a KG that has been completed. Another one at the roofing stage. You know, and there are a lot more. You know, I remember I donated a hematology analyzer, 3 parts. To a community hospital at a place called Apatrapa, and I mean, so numerous things are being done within this short time. Done my best to also lobby for Agenda 111 to be built in the constituency. Luckily for us, I've also lobbied so hard to get Astrotep. I think the groundbreaking will be done this month, hopefully on the 13th of May and all that. So, my brother, I mean, and other, for example, the 30 constituents that are put into vocational institutions, some of them are learning how to sew, how to make hair, and 30 of them fully sponsored by me.
30 of them?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, the equipment that they are using, I provided.
So sewing machines,
hair dryers, and all that. You know what I mean? So these are some of the things that's done in the constituency. I'm also visibly involved in the constituency. I go to the communities, I visit markets, I visit churches. You know, I'm there for the people. I interact with them freely and all that. You know, there are some that we've been able to offer scholarships, job opportunities. We do our best because then it was the people who gave us this privilege. So we need to also make sure that their lots are improved.
All right.
Serving quite so well, you know what I mean? So if you come to Parliament, one of my main responsibilities is to be in Parliament, to take part in debate and other activities on the floor, asking questions that benefit the region and the nation, and Roxanne will attest to that. Actively engage in debates on the floor, issuing statements and all that. So
those we see. I just wanted us to stick to the constituency. But just a quick follow-up on this before I come to Roxanne. I saw you looking at your time. I hope you're... Anyway, so just to reiterate, yesterday we had fire service personnel here. It was a very interesting conversation. It's fantastic what you're doing with the police station. Security issues. Yeah. There are many areas that need police outposts that don't have them. So that's fantastic. But also consider, I know Kwadaso is a pretty big constituency. Your population is huge. Okay. I don't know what the dynamics are when it comes to fighting fires. You know, in most areas, they were citing yesterday that Domikwa, that whole place, you don't have a fire outpost. Maybe one might have to come from Ablinkpe and the rest. So that is something I would proffer for you. As you're putting up a police station, also think of places. They say sometimes just give them land and then something will start. So you can look at that as well.
So one is being built there. I think we have issues regarding the ownership
of the land?
No, of the fire. I mean, the structure is there. So we need to find a way of establishing the ownership so that we can take off, you know what I mean? So, it's a very good question, and the MC and I, we are doing our best to get it done, you know, to get it operationalized. Yeah, so it's a fair point. You know, fire disasters are becoming one too many, and this is the time for us to make sure that we have the office to combat fires when they do arise.
So the other bit I wanted to find out, so with all of these things you're doing, how are you funding them? Are they coming from your common fund? I always find it curious. I always want to get to the bottom of it. How are you funding all of these projects? How are you purchasing these sewing machines, hair dryers? How are you putting up this police station? And do you feel it will do enough for you to carry on in terms of your party's primaries when they come off? As for them, their primaries have started. Yours haven't started. Do you think this will put you in good stead?
So I mean, 2 years and we are still counting. For me, what is important is to do something that benefits the communities. The police station, for example, when I became the member of parliament, I did town hall meetings in almost all the communities. And that was a request. They needed a police station. It was done for them. And for me, that is significant. And the police station is being constructed through my common fund, okay? There are other interventions.
How much have you expended on the police station so far?
I think, I can't give you the figures, but I think that in all, I don't want to quote a figure that will be misleading, okay? But it is being funded, solely through common fund. I don't handle the finances.
Can you give us a guesstimate? Can you give us a guessing approximate? Have you expended, let's say, over 200,000 Ghana cedis?
Oh, no, I think it's gone beyond that.
It's gone beyond 200,000.
I mean, the entire project wouldn't cost less than 400,000 Ghana cedis. It wouldn't cost less than that, because when we put up the structure, the police estate department came there to make sure that it meets their standard.
For purpose.
And they introduce some additions.
Construction of cells, those
yes, they even asked us to even wall it. The first time I've seen police station being walled, I even spoke with them. They said that is the new directive.
New model.
So all these things have been done. All these things are going to increase even our initial projection for the facility. Okay. So I'm sure when everything is done, we'll get to it.
And you feel in the primaries you'll be retained on the back of all the work you're doing?
That is my conviction.
Okay, all right.
However, you see, but some of these things is the people who decide.
The people
and I'm sure
the delegates will decide.
I'm sure. I mean, they will do that. But
all right.
But to conclude on this, some of these things too are also done through lobbying. You lobby, you collaborate. At times I collaborate. With private persons to get some things done. Recently, I was able to get some items for persons with disabilities. I collaborated with a particular institution, ably supported by Edward Watson, former ambassador to China. A lot of people benefited, wheelchairs, walking sticks and all that. So at times you collaborate, at times you lobby. The Ghana Gas, for example, I had to lobby.
So you fall on other people as well, apart from dipping into your common fund.
Yes,
and your own resources, your own
resources, and friends.
It's interesting. So the last time someone was telling me about how much MPs purportedly spend in a month. How much have you spent in the last month? Let's check your inflation. How much, or deflation, if you like? How much did you spend in the last month out of your pocket?
Yes, it's a trap, but you know what I mean.
No, this is not a trap.
No,
it's reality.
No, the point is that.
Did you spend upwards of? Because I heard something about over 40,000 CDs.
Expenditures differ according to your budget, your strength, and all.
In the last month, in
monkeys play by sizes. You know what I mean?
Monkeys play by sizes.
Yeah, so you play according to.
So what is your size in there? Are you spending 20K a month, 40K a month, 10K a month?
I wouldn't want to put a figure on that, but spend substantial amount of money on our constituents, because the demands come, the requests, some are genuine.
Thank you.
To also meet them.
Thank you, Dr. Nyako. Let me come to you. I'll start from there. I will not start from your constituency. How much are you spending averagely in a month?
I'm in the throes of my primaries, and so I'm spending heavily.
You're spending heavily?
Yeah, it's...
You're bleeding?
I'm bleeding. Yeah, it's... to be very honest with you, and it's very expensive.
Into who bleedy? And our constituents no feel it.
well,
oh, you know, so
you can say that. You can say that, but we are. Every NDC MP presently is bleeding heavily. Yes.
But why though?
God times.
You see, there's a very queer feeling to this. It's as though you maintain the constituents for all these years, and then you maintain your branch executives as well. Then
when you say maintain, what do you mean?
Yes, you sponsor a lot of things. You sponsor funerals.
Education.
You pay for rent, you pay for education, you pay medical bills, you pay for outdoors, you pay for child support, you pay for farming. You know? So, and the demands come bits and pieces. Every day they pour in. Even this morning, I have received a lot of requests. Personal interventions. Now, this continues until when it gets to another election cycle such as this, everyone thinks that, well, then this is the time to put my demand across because you're under pressure to meet it. So you don't incur somebody's displeasure. So that is by the by. In respect of South Dye, in terms of education, even though I'm an MP under an opposition MP in a government that I do not belong, I can say that I have lobbied for a lot of things for my constituency. If you go to GAFCO, for instance, in Piki, there's a 4-story Get Fund project. It's been completed for girls. They are using it. The GAFCO College Road is being done as part of the Eastern Corridor main road works. It's never happened before, but it's happening under my watch and lobbying. I actually had to mobilize the CEO, the group CEO of First Sky, group of contractors to go there and make his own assessment and approve of the request. The same GAFCO, there's a very huge assembly hall complex which is under construction. As a result of my intervention, payment, contractor is receiving payment, so the project is ongoing. That's just for GAFCO alone. If you go to Piki Secondary Technical at Wudome, there's a brand new girls' dormitory constructed by Get Fund, also through my lobbying intervention. There's a twin boys hostel, also through my intervention. An assembly hall has been, an administration block has been completed, but not handed over yet. If we go to the basic schools, if we go to Chanakbe, which is my community, a brand new secondary school started by John Mahama, but 1 or 2 projects have been completed. Bebe Secondary Technical, we are a brand new boys dormitory has been completed but given to girls, because where the girls were, it's this much to be desired, so it was swapped. So now we are making efforts to get another one constructed for the boys. Bebe SHS needs a lot. Pestec, the old students themselves have done some painting. They painted 1 or 2 blocks. I've also done a lot of intervention in terms of infrastructure. In terms of teaching aid, I've supplied laptops to the Education Directorate to be given to ICT teachers to support teaching of ICT in the constituency. It's not every school that got it, but that's a phase 1. There will be a phase 2.
Okay.
Now, I'm constructing a kindergarten through my use of common fund at one of the communities called Baibome. I've renovated classroom blocks at Agodake, brand new. I've also, through my intervention at the assembly and with support of the assembly, constructed the brand new GSS block with ancillary facilities at Palimedugan. If you go to Tool Vocational, there's a huge improvement as part of the government's program to improve all the vocational institutions in the country. Honestly, if I wasn't sitting in Parliament that day, I would have lost out. Because when the list of schools came, Tool Vocational was missing completely. So I needed to speak to Speaker Michael Kwe, draw his attention to it. And then he agreed that if I have a school like that, then they had to be included. So quickly we had to take photographs of the existing school, provided to, then it was Dr. Prempe. who was then Napo, who was the education minister, and he approved of it. And truth be told, we got more projects than even the originally selected school. We got 5 projects. A 75-bed capacity dormitory for both boys and girls. So that's about 150. Then we have a brand new administration block for 2 vocational. Then we have a brand new workshop, as well as a 1-story classroom block. So that is for 2 vocational alone. Now, if we get to support to the education directorate, I support my BEC candidates every year. I sponsor their extra classes so that they get better, they prepare better as candidates. I also support them with materials and all that. And I support the directorate sometimes in their monitoring and evaluation when they have to go around and monitor the schools. There's no funding. The secretariat doesn't receive any money anymore. So it's the MPs who have to give them money, support them in terms of even maintenance of vehicles, fueling, office maintenance, all those things. I do that. When we speak of health, I have health centers in Kumbonikope, Tongo-Chanakwe, Balimeduga, Tongo Kaira, Abuichita, Chate, Todome, which is the district capital. Then I have a health center or Chiefs Compound at Beibome, health center at Balime, Chiefs Compound at Sanga, health center at Shinu, health center which is now a polyclinic at Pekijake, then a Chiefs Compound at Peki Udome, then a health center at Peki Ajokwe. Then I have the Peki Government Hospital, which is at Chami. I've supported them supply medical equipment, very expensive, but which is helping them to be able to offer first aid and medical attention to, my community, my constituency is mainly rural, apart from Peki conurbation and Kwebe the capital, the rest are fairly rural. So you need those health centers to be well equipped to be able to handle the medical emergencies that will emerge from those communities before you could be rushing them to Peki Government Hospital, which is the main health facility as the mainstay of the district. Now, successfully lobbied for, again, Agenda 111. Again, if I were not in Parliament that day, would have lost out. Because when government decided to do the phase 1 of the project, they selected, initially the list came, it was 36. And in the Volta region, instead of 7 districts that didn't have district hospitals and therefore needed to be factored in, it was 6. And again, where Kwebe was missing. So again, I had to get up. And then Speaker Michael Kwe said, yes, you were very instrumental in passing the emergency bills. You were on your feet, contributing very well towards the legislation. So if there are benefits as a fallout of those legislation as part of the COVID-19 emergency relief responses, you have to benefit. So, Honorable Minister, kindly consider Honorable Defiamepo. And that was considered.
Right.
And let me say that the project, the president has been there twice.
Okay.
He visited the site twice within last year. And it's progressing. I think the last time I visited there was 2 weeks ago. If I know, I would have sent you. I would have forwarded the photographs to you. Strassels have been,
Your counterpart has just shared some photos with me. So
okay.
Eventually, when you get yours,
yes, I will. No, they are here. They are here. They are here. I'll just after I speak. After speaking, I'll send them. Strassels have been affixed on top, so roofing will soon be done.
Okay.
And then it will be a huge boost, especially to the district capital, because this is a growth pool project. It has this way of attracting other businesses in terms of accommodation, pharmacies, and all that.
So I get exactly what you're saying. I wanted to dedicate the first 20 minutes to this confab, which we've done. We've hit 8.
So social intervention, I've done a lot. I've also built a police station for my predecessor started it. I came to finish at Peki District Command. So the command used to be in a rented premises at Peki Jake. Now they've moved to Avetile. And during my time, they didn't have a vehicle.
Right.
So I had a district commander called DSP Autry, who is the director for transport now at the headquarters. And he, together with myself, we lobbied and got a brand new pickup for the Peki District Command, which they are using now. I have 2 police commands, the Kweve District Command and the Peki District Command. Peki is the original, but Kweve got it because of the elevation as the district capital.
Right.
So they don't have vehicle. They have an old one, which I keep maintaining, and I think that they also deserve a new one.
Okay, so so just to move on from here, I want us to get into substantive matters, but just in some 30 seconds, with all these things you're doing, as your primaries have taken off, and while you still have to nurture your constituents, do you feel it will keep you in good stead to continue with the work you're doing?
Absolutely. And there are a few disgruntled people. We are still talking to them, but absolutely, I'm winning in 10 days' time.
All right, you're winning in 10 days' time. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. And of course, let me properly address you. I just got wind of the fact
that
let me
say this. Let me say gratitude to Dr. Kwame Ampofu, my predecessor, who's doing a lot, my team on the ground, my branch executives, constituency executives, and all the people who are working to ensure that I get re-elected. I'm so grateful. Mr. Voodoo, Jonas Anyadi, Mr. Amwa, the Peki team led by Ajana, Newell, Jidepu, all those guys, very grateful to them.
All right.
The Kweve team, Kelly and co, Mr. Mote, very grateful to them.
All right. So we're grateful to all of them.
Yes.
I just got wind of this. So you are now associate professor?
Yes.
Okay, so Dr. Nyako, I guess I can start calling you Prof now.
I think so.
Well,
I think so.
Well, Ed.
Well, congratulations on that feat, and we wish you rise even higher. In the military, they will say, "What is a field marshal?" That's in some jurisdiction. We don't know what is beyond that.
If I go back to academia.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because I can't be a professor when you're in academia.
Right. Of course, but I'm saying that beyond that, maybe at a point you become an emeritus, but of course that is not really a title, it's just when you've exhausted the system. So let's get into the very pertinent matters we want to look at. And we've already taken a swipe at your constituencies and your re-election bids and all of that. Let's stay in Parliament.
Yeah.
Recently, of course, there's been a lot of talk about the $750 million that has been approved, so to speak, for different projects across the country, loan facilities, if you like. And some, in fact, your minority leader, Dr. Kasialato Forsen, had to talk about capping the loans. In fact, in recent times, we've spoken about the Bank of Ghana, for example, which has been directed, so to speak. The IMF, in some engagements, have made mention of the fact that we cannot keep doing this. The lending to government must stop, or at least have a cap in some form. Here we are with same coming up in Parliament. Former Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu has also brought this point to the fore. I'll start with you, Roxanne. This latest surge, this latest tranche, $750 million, you look at what they're going to be used for, and a number of items underneath, from the West African food security bit to the setting up of a development bank. How many of those do we need, though? To $30 million for COVID-19 medical equipment, to $150 million for primary health care projects, $200 million for digital acceleration, among others. And then, of course, we also have the Swami Interchange and Kodongo bypass, among others. But I'd like to find out from you, what do you make of this latest development?
Now, it's not correct that we only approved 750. What we approved totaled 1.64 billion.
So the 750 was for the Swami Interchange and Kodongo bypass.
Yes, and that loan, it's so controversial.
Why?
Controversial because government comes back to Parliament to say that originally you had approved some money for the construction of the bridge over the from Kwahu South. to Afram Plains, North and South constituencies or districts. And that was the intendment. And then you come back and say that you want to reallocate that to construct a bypass between Konongo and Ejisu. That is unacceptable. You could have looked for another loan to do that.
Another loan?
Yes.
But what would you say about another loan?
But why would you come to Parliament, go through all the processes of approval, including scrutiny and parliamentary committee report?
What does that mean? Do you think you were hoodwinked, deceived?
I am not saying so. Those are your words.
But
I'm
saying
saying
it.
What do you?
You are
No,
actually
but what do you
suggesting it.
expect the people of Kwahu South or Kwahu in general, the people in Tafo, in Teso, Kotoso, Asaka, Pipiase, Bukrua, in Praiso, Bepon? What do you expect them to achieve? What do you expect them to feel? And the people in Donkokro, in Ketepa, Adosun, how do you expect them to feel? So when exactly are you going to come back to look for another facility to do that for them? That is the point. It means you are prioritizing one major infrastructure project over theirs.
But is that not what governance is all about?
No, that is not governance is all about. It is not.
Priorities at any given time. So you may have a different set of priorities, but
what is the overriding consideration in this matter?
What do you think?
I don't know. But I'm raising the matter. 2, we have also been told that we should approve, which we have done. We approved 60.6 for COVID response project. And this is what the report says regarding that matter. And it's shocking because this is what the committee actually observed.
You tell us what
the committee says
the
that
investigation revealed.
Some members of the committee expressed concerns about the propriety of approving additional funding for COVID-19 activities when resources already approved for COVID-19 expenses had not been properly accounted for. Have you read the special auditor's report? We've been told that we have $80 million sitting with UNICEF. Have you interrogated that matter? That's what Auditor General is saying. Monies we've given to UNICEF to supply vaccines that they have not supplied. I'm not saying so. It's the Auditor General. And yet we are looking for...
The health minister corroborated.
Yes, and yet we are looking for 60 million.
And we were told that, of course, we didn't have all the storage facilities at a point, and that we had got, the donations to,
But listen to the purpose for this loan. Justification for the project. The rationale for the additional financing is to scale up interventions towards accelerated socio-economic recovery and revitalization. The 60.6 million funding from IDA will provide upfront financing for safe and effective vaccine deployment in Ghana. We have money sitting with UNICEF to supply vaccines that we have not yet received. We are looking for additional funding to go and do what? For effective vaccine deployment.
So your plan is we have some money sitting with UNICEF.
More than the 60 million.
We should rather use that money.
Let's retrieve that money.
So what happens, COVID-19, we're not out of the woods.
I'm not saying we are.
The World Health Organization says it may not be a pandemic anymore, but it's something that's going to be like the common flu. It's going to be seasonal. It's going to come up from time to time. Recently, I read about some new strain out there. What do you suggest we do when these hit us?
The thrust of my argument, the gravamen of my argument is that we don't need this money. We have more than this amount of money sitting with an international agency. So it's not a simple matter of recalling the money and buying more than what this facility is supposed to do. That's my point. Again, we've been asked to approve 170 million euros, which is the equivalent of $210 million, to set up a development bank in this republic.
I found that a bit curious, but tell me, what are your concerns?
My concern is that we have a development bank, a great development bank.
Some would say its focus is on agriculture.
Exactly. One of the facilities, the one on fighting food insecurity, the report itself says that 90% of households in this country survives on agriculture. So wisdom should tell us that this $210 million should be given to ADB to be able to fund agro-processing, agro-related activities.
So especially in a time when the banks are bleeding, when a lot of them are incurring losses.
We are abandoning...
These 170 million euros should rather have been given to the African Development
Yes. No, not Africa, but Agri Development Bank.
The ADB, right.
Or with
NIB.
Development Bank. Because NIB is about National Investment Bank. So anywhere an indigene or foreigner wants to invest, that will bear fruit for the economy. We ought to have done that. You don't need to set up another state apparatus. Is it not this government that told us last year in its budget as part of the austere measures that they won't set up any statutory body anymore? Is it not the same government? They told us. I didn't say it.
It is.
You said that you won't set up any more statutory bodies, any more state apparatus, because it's a bleed on the public purse. But now we are looking for money to set up a development bank. So unreasonable. Again,
do you think in the end, though, a quick one on that, the Agri Development Bank does what it does, but do you think, I mean, look at what happened with the Commander Sugar Factory and where we had to get a loan from, for which we're still not out of the woods. This whole Commander Sugar Factory thing is a matter on its own. But do you feel beyond agriculture, we need development banking, so to speak, to shore up our economy in different ways? Look at infrastructure, for example.
There's a development component in what ADB does. There's NIB. NIB funds infrastructure. NIB has given a lot of loans to a lot of contractors, if you look at their loan portfolio. There's a Ghana Commercial Bank. They fund a lot of infrastructure projects in this country. We have other commercial banks that help to do that. We have Stanchart, we have Barclays, which is now ABSA. We have Zenith Bank, we have named them. Government itself, as part of the financial sector reforms, collapsed some banks and consolidated some, merged them into what they call the
CBG.
CBG. Why not recapitalize CBG? For instance, why not tell Parliament that CBG, having worked as a consolidated bank for the past 5 years, you've reviewed their books, you think that they are doing well, so they need to be recapitalized or they need to be assisted to do more. It would have sounded more reasonable in these times.
Right. So that point there is made. But when you look at the different items on the menu, so to speak, the food security, West African food security bit, I think recently there was a report emanating from one of the bodies of the UN stating that food security could be a problem in Ghana and I think the Ivory Coast, among other countries. So food security is key there. You've already shared your thoughts on the development bank. There's $30 million COVID-19 medical equipment.
Yes.
There's also $150 million in terms of primary health care projects, another $150 million for public finance management programs, and then $200 million for digital acceleration program. It appears the digital drive is going very hard. What's your quick take on these as well?
First of all,
prudent investment?
No. First of all, government should be accounting to us. The colossal amount of money we have approved for the planting for food and jobs, the planting for food and exports, all that. What is happening? If we agree that we have food insecurity in this country, and therefore we need money, we need loan to tackle it, what happened to these lofty, highfalutin sounding government agro programs?
1D, 1F.
Thank you. What happened?
Planting for
I will not even go to 1D, 1F. I will stay with the basic primary fundamental one. That if when it had been done properly, we will simply put food on the table of multitude of
planting
Ghanaians.
for food and
planting
jobs.
for food and jobs. What happened to it? So that today we must go and look for a loan to say that we have food insecurity. When we say that people can't feed, there's no food, they say there's abundance of food. Yet you are in parliament asking for money to fight food insecurity. Now, primary healthcare. We've asked them, tell us which health facilities are you going to apply this fund to improve. Tell us, give us the breakdown. No indication. It's just an omnibus term. Is it going to affect Kolebu? Is it going to affect La? Because La has been abandoned for the past 3 years. An existing hospital that has been
the hospital facility. Right?
Yes. So we need to know. Then we can monitor properly as parliament, because ever often, he and I are blamed as MPs who approve loans and go back to sleep. So we want to monitor where these monies are going to be applied. There's no indication. Regarding the COVID-19 30 million medical equipment, again, we want to know which hospitals will benefit. No indication. I want my Peki government hospital to benefit, of course. So if we are not in the list, then I can stand on my feet and make a case for it. Because we have not received government intervention by way of medical supplies or even some equipment intervention in a very, very long time. Not since I came to power or I became MP since 2017. Nothing. Every intervention has had to come from me. They are poor hospital beds. Equipments have become obsolete. They need expansion. All that. So if we will benefit, then I can make a case for it. But if my hospital in Pekichame is absent, then I need to make a case for it. There's no indication. Now, you speak of the digital acceleration.
And we have to...
Yes, I'll wrap up. I'll wrap up,
I
if
just
I may.
want to get your bit on that so that we can also quickly look at how we can, whether it's feasible to curb excessive borrowing. So I can also move to...
Okay. Now, that again sounds as an euphemism for some program. No details have been given. No, it has to be properly structured. We need to understand what is the meaning of digital acceleration program. Because we've been doing online business, justice, that is e-justice, all this before they came to power. So I need to understand exactly what that means. What I found very dubious of all the loans is the 150 million public financial management program. For service delivery.
Do you have any idea what goes into that?
No, because I questioned this when the budget was presented, when the finance ministry presented its budget and the report was approved. I asked, what in God's name does resource mobilization mean? How do you say that you need money to improve resource mobilization and allocation, budget execution, and accountability, which will in turn enable better public service delivery?
Are we looking at revenue mobilization?
This is so nebulous.
Revenue mobilization, maybe?
Look.
You fish for money with money,
Hold on. No. You have been paid to do your job as a GRA staff. Why do I have to go and borrow money to do something?
We've been talking about widening the tax net, ensuring that many more people are paying their taxes, so we don't.
Is that not the job? Is that not the job of GRA?
Of the population?
Is that not why GRA sits heavily on our public purse?
Does it prevent the system from or establishment from helping?
They
the
do
GRA
this.
to perform better?
They do this every year. This particular line of expenditure features in the budget of the finance ministry every year. I've just discovered. So I am asking, what is the meaning of resource mobilization? Why do you spend money for resource mobilization? I want to understand.
So maybe you should put a question on the floor of Parliament. You should lay that question. You say you raised this issue when the budget was being debated.
Yes.
Maybe you should put together some statement on this and see what the response will be from the finance minister.
And the amount that they allocated in the budget for this is not. This is just a fraction of what has been quoted. So. Look, this is nothing but a conduit for siphoning money. I will be this blunt.
I want us to focus on this. Is there an avenue, and I know there are avenues within Parliament where you can haul ministers before you to respond to certain things. I just want to know, what are you going to trigger on that specifically?
First,
if it's a line item that has been showing debate out, what are you going to do?
First, a question. To demand an explanation for this and the expenditure patterns and what truly goes into it. But I can say this. About 3 weeks ago, a certain company called SML Ghana is supposedly in some contract with the GRA and the Ministry of Finance to help improve our tax collection system or revenue mobilization.
I've heard.
Yes. The company was just set up in 2017. They have no track record. 2017. How do you give them such a colossal contract? They have no track record. Two, you recall that this government again recruited a foreign company called McKinsey to help some revenue mobilization efforts at Ministry of Finance and GRA. We've been asking questions, what exactly did McKinsey do within that period, and what has been the outcome, if any?
At what cost?
At what cost?
To
and
the
the benefits.
Ghanaian. Right.
Yeah, we've been asking. But finally, he and I, we were sent by Speaker just last week to Kenya to attend a very important seminar on public debt and debt management and all. And one of the key recommendations from that seminar is that as a country, we need to have a ceiling on how much we borrow. We also need an annual borrowing calendar.
Annual borrowing calendar and a ceiling, a cap. Yes. Now, we know that as far as the Bank of Ghana is concerned, there are going to be certain caps in terms of how much it will give government, for example, in any fiscal year. But I just want to find out, the point was raised by the majority leader that you can't expect to leave a certain debt overhang or certain economic situations for another administration to come in and not borrow or over-borrow to deal with some of those situations. How do you react to that? Very quickly.
I think the majority leader got the tangent of the question wrong from the minority leader.
Are you suggesting he didn't understand what you were saying?
Perhaps. You see, the minority leader is not saying don't borrow. He says that the rate of borrowing between 2017 and now is being astronomical. So there need to be a cap so we can interrogate the figure. For instance, I'm asking that we should
let that be your final point.
We should audit our debt.
Okay.
The borrowings that we've done so far within the past 7 years, we need to vet it. We need to audit it. Are we getting value for money? We need to audit it.
And that lies in your bosom in Parliament. Let me come to Professor Nyako now. I've already mentioned the figures. You're well aware of them. Over $1 billion that have been put forward now from the Swami Interchange and Konongo Bypass all the way down to primary healthcare projects, COVID-19, among others. Especially in reaction to some of what he's said. Digital acceleration program. What is going to go into that? It's a bit vague. And of course, the one he mentioned as well, the COVID-19 bits. When you look at these figures, what do you see? Why do you find these to be crucial at this point in time? And looking at where we find ourselves, the IMF program we're looking for, is it apt to be going in for such loans for a development bank, for example? What is your take?
So thanks again, Ben. I want to commend Roxanne for the great things he's doing in his constituency, South Dai. And I was happy when he said that Agenda 111 in his constituency is progressing. And for me, I think it is something laudable. The government is doing something right. The Agenda 111 project was bastardized and all that, but if it is progressing in his constituency, and I think that at the end of the day is going to benefit his constituency. Roxanne is a very solid guy, and I'm praying that his constituents will really let him to come to the August House.
Are you praying for him too?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So it's good to know the prayer isn't one-sided.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So I mean, the issues about the loans. For most of these loans that yesterday we passed had been sitting on our books. They are not new loans that had been contracted. You know what I mean? The 750.
That's why I mean interchange one.
Yes. You know what I mean? All these loans, we had dealt with them, but they had not been, approved. That was why we were asked to come back to get the approval. Loans are parts of the calculus in administering any country or any economy. They are part of it. I mean, we were, as I said, we were together in Kenya, and we were even told that U.S. was even struggling to meet its debt obligations. Even an advanced economy like US is struggling, let alone a developing economy like ours that was exposed by the ravaging effects of COVID-19 and all that. So we know that we need to enhance domestic revenue. Ben, that is the way to go. If you're able to enhance, improve upon domestic revenue, it will help us to be able to cut down on borrowing. We will borrow, but not to the levels that we do. It's all because of balance of payment, shortfalls, deficit, and all that. There are so many needs of the people, bad roads, inaccessibility to medical facilities. These are issues that government has to deal with. And how do you deal with them? You need money. And if your domestic resource envelope is not enough to deal with that, then it becomes difficult not to look for external support or domestic support in terms of getting some loans to deal with them. So, and Ben, and you agree with me, as we speak, our tax to GDP ratio is hovering around 30%. We'll be able to move it from 11% when we took over in 2017 to 13%, which is way below.
But while you seek to do that, people will tell you shouldn't tax people and businesses into the ground. The business community has, from the Chamber of Commerce to GUTA to everybody, has been crying foul.
Our tradition
on the back of that.
Our tradition.
VAT has been increased. Everything is going.
Our tradition.
And we still have COVID-19 levies on our books. What is that doing?
Ben, our tradition, the NPP tradition, is a conservative tradition. And one of our cardinal elements or principles is that we need to go for low taxes. That is our tradition.
Low taxes.
Yes, that was why when we won power, we made sure that about 17 taxes either were removed entirely or the threshold was reduced. Okay, that was why we did that. But the COVID-19 levy that we are talking about, the additional taxes were in response, to the shortfalls in revenue during the period of COVID-19. How do we increase our resource envelope to be able to deal with that? Okay, so that is why we find ourselves in this particular situation. Governments, previous governments, also borrowed. Okay, they borrowed to face some needs. The interchanges that the NDC administration built, were financed through loans. Okay, so that is the issue. Now, these loans were passed yesterday. My point is that how do we make sure that these loans are put into a better use, a use that will meet the intended purpose and objective, a use that will benefit the people? The diversion of the $98 million facility for the Accra-Kumasi bypass, okay, even though there's been a diversion, for all you know, reassessment underscore the fact that, for example, it will be more beneficial handling this particular portion of our roads as compared to the. It doesn't mean that government has closed its eyes completely or entirely from that enclave. Okay, reprioritization underscore that. Swami Interchange, for example, the $75 million that also has been diverted to work on that facility. If you go to Swami, the congestion, the traffic and all that, believe that when that part is opened up, it will ease vehicular flow and it will also benefit the people. So it's not the case that maybe the government doesn't even think about them. Okay, they are human beings, the government, if the government didn't even think about them in the first place, the government wouldn't have even thought about them by trying to use this facility.
I get the point you're making, loans for development, but when you look at some of what we're contracting the loans for For example, this development bank, another $150 million that we're going to sink into that project. How does that, doing some logical reasoning on the back of what we know, the NIB, the ADB and all of that, and in our circumstances, you know, when your purse strings are even not being pulled by you yourself to some extent, where we find ourselves, why are we doing this? What's the justification?
So the Development Bank Ghana, the idea is to fuel development in terms of support to businesses, support to small, medium-scale enterprises to enhance their capacity. Because apart from even increasing our domestic envelope, Ben, one other issue is to also enhance our export capacity. If the development bank's sole objective is to focus on how do we get this economy developed by targeting certain specific sectors. At the end of the day, the hard currency we are going to get will also help us in lessening the pressure on the foreign currency that we used to import and all that. So the focus is different. He talked about National Investment Bank. It has its own purpose, a circle of operation. If you, Agricultural Development Bank, for example, is also targeted. Development Bank Africa looks at how do we make sure that we are able to support, certain businesses for them to enhance their capacity to boost export, value addition and all that. That is the focus. So, and the money involved is about 700 million euros or dollars or so. And this one is coming from the European Investment Bank to support that. And I think that, it is something laudable. Policies by governments, at times, you see, if you're not careful, at the face of it, you might kick against it, Ben, but it will turn out to be beneficial to you. Initially, the NDC administration kicked against Agenda 111. It was needless, not important. It will add to, the public desktop. That was their cry in opposing it. Now, my good friend sits here and is happy that in his constituency, it is progressing. At the end of the day, government is contracted alone to achieve that. But then, it will face some of these problems. Somebody who will be having medical challenges will be sorted out instead of carrying the person or throwing the person to who.
Do you know my problem with some of these projects and projections?
You tell me.
In fact, you didn't start promising these hospitals just a few years ago. It started from back even in the first term of this administration. Now you're promising 111 with some in districts, some in regions and all of that. The feasibility of it all even is very questionable. How many months do we have left to election 2024? And the feasibility of completing these hospital facilities. So as we keep expending money, some of them will not be completed. If there's a rollover, even if your administration is retained in power, whether his administration comes, questions will be raised about this and that. That is what leads to abandoned projects and the rest. So sometimes I don't think it is about necessarily saying that it is wrong to put up a hospital. No one would say that. Of course, it would also depend on which catchment area. If you already have 2 hospitals in a catchment area, or 1 even, you wouldn't want to add another hospital there when there is the need for others. But I'm saying that these are some of the dynamics on the back of which, whether it's civil society or the minority, would say, look, are these feasible in the first place? Are we going to get value for money? Are these going to be complete at a time so that people can make use of them? All of these go into that. So when people question them or probe, those are the reasons.
Oh, but I will not fight against any legitimate, inquiries or questions on this. That is fair because we are citizens and we demand value for money. But my point is that you must also look at other side of every issue. Okay, so the hospital that you are talking about, there's cost into it, right? But at the end of the day, there's also benefit to it. Why don't we also look at the benefit aspect? and not only fixating on the cost aspect. The employment is going to create for the nurses and doctors that we train them. You can have about 3 hospitals within an enclave. It is about the accessibility. It's about, creating jobs for, because Ben, every year we churn out nurses. Every year we churn out medical doctors. Where do they go? If you have facilities, they will absorb them. That is how nations, develop. I agree that we need to check, our borrowing pattern. Fair enough.
Should we have a debt ceiling?
Already,
or a borrowing ceiling, so to
I don't know what exactly our friends on the other side mean by debt ceiling. Because
the Americans have a system, and while the Republicans are pulling Biden, in a way it works.
I'm making a point. In 2018, the 7th Parliament passed the Fiscal Responsibility Act at 928. And that act says that we shouldn't obtain a fiscal deficit of below 5%. In August...
You mean beyond 5%?
It shouldn't go beyond 5%.
Right.
In August 2020, the finance minister went back to Parliament and because of COVID, said that that particular law should be suspended. And as we speak, I don't know, I think it's still suspended.
Which also points to how exactly, even post-COVID, or we're out of the throes of COVID. Let's be fair. And again, we'll even be told about the underlying items which show that actually we're even overshooting that.
We are not out of the woods here. But the point I'm making is that if the Fiscal Responsibility Act has been suspended, and we're also talking about debt ceiling, I don't see the difference because they are all supposed to achieve the same thing. What you need to ask for is for the restoration of the Fiscal Responsibility Act.
But why should it be restored, especially when it is clear that
it came to Parliament?
I'm saying, especially even when it is enforced, it is clear from especially what the minority says. Those line items I was making mention of in our budgets that clearly we're not sticking to it. We're not applying it in the first place.
Before COVID-19, we were able to operate within the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2018.
By massaging the figures?
Oh, I don't know which figures were massaged, but I know that we were able to operate within the fiscal responsibility threshold of 5%. We did, I remember, 3.8 in 2018, 4.8 or so in 2019.
By moving some loans contracted, by moving certain projects outside of that sphere, of course you would get.
No, but you see, if you look at the budget, every budget doesn't contain all government expenditure.
No one is saying every budget does.
Yeah, so there will be some expenses that will not be captured by the budget. That is all the time. So it doesn't mean that government deliberately, massage.
So for you, as far as you are concerned,
to the World Bank and IMF, it was clear regarding our reporting format. It was clear, okay? The below the line and above the line, they were there. It was transparent. Nothing fishy about that.
All right.
But you see, Roxanne making a point about one of the loans, I think the $150 million to finance the public financial management for service delivery program. He had issues with that. But this report that he himself read was adopted by the finance committee. All the members on the committee adopted this report. So if the committee has adopted this report, you don't have to rubbish that report because it is a consensus report. There's another report here. The 60.6 million.
But clarify for me. Hold on. When it comes to Parliament, when consensus is used, it means that yes, maybe a majority.
No, all of them.
It does not necessarily. It doesn't always reflect consensus. That you were all in agreement. Is that what it reflects?
In Parliament, because he's my senior there. When you say consensus, it means that
because sometimes by a majority.
So this report, the 60.6 million, that report was by majority because the minority had raised issue about the expenditures of the COVID-19, COVID-19 issue. So if you look at the conclusion, the second paragraph, it says, the minority members of the committee, however, expressed the inability to support the approval of additional resources for COVID-19 when the expenditures already incurred in respect of COVID-19 could not be properly accounted for, and when the expenditure is a subject of an ongoing parliamentary inquiry. In view of the enormous potential and all that, if you read below, it says the committee by majority decision. Okay, so it means that it was majority that came out with this report. Okay, so that is the distinction. So if a committee of parliament sits on a matter and recommends to the House, we should credit them with good judgment. We can have our issues as individual members at plenary. We can have our views that might be at variance with what the committee members hold, okay? But it doesn't mean that because we have a contrary opinion or view on this, they didn't do a good job or something, okay? So that is the point I want to establish. This government is not just borrowing just for its sake. The borrowing is being done to fix the critical infrastructural gap that we find ourselves in. And I'm hoping that the policies that we've rolled out, the 1D, 1F, will be enhanced. We need to make sure that we are able to do more and proper value addition, export more to get in additional revenue. We should be able to also ensure that domestically, we are also able, okay, to shore up our revenue and reduce corruption in all sectors of the economy. If you're able to do this, I think that our dependency on borrowing will come down to
let's take a few. I know you want to react. I'll just give you about a minute because I saw you shaking your head vigorously on a number of points. I want us to transition to something else. We'll talk about Justice Tokono, but even before that, I would want us to get into our forest situation, Galamsey, and how it's plaguing us. That's why I want us to make tracks. Quick reactions.
Okay. One, it's not correct that all these are not new loans. If you are considering a loan to be approved and it stays on your book for 5 years, it's not approved, it can be an old loan. Everything that it brings to Parliament is what makes it new. If you are considering a facility and it's sitting with you executive, Parliament doesn't know anything about it. That's one. Two, what is the meaning of parliamentary approval or rejection? One of the loans we rejected before we rose on 31st March.
What happened yesterday?
The motion was rescinded.
Yeah.
And was retabled.
So it's on old loan.
No.
The system.
No, I'm making a very technical point. When people expect Parliament to reject a proposal from government for some reason, then 2-3 weeks down the line, government comes back to have that reversed. What does it mean? So it means Parliament is so incapable. Because you can reject something today, it will come back tomorrow, and the same thing will be, the rejection motion will be reversed. So when people expect that we should reject things from government, I'm trying to make a point. We rejected one of the facilities. The government has gone and brought it back and got it approved.
But you could have.
Then the matter in respect of the committee report regarding the resource mobilization money. Why? I have a right as the elected representative of the people of South Nine to disagree even with Parliament.
I made that point, yeah.
You understand? So the fact that members, my caucus members on the committee reached a consensus with the committee members and came with a report recommending it doesn't mean I shouldn't express my strong views.
I didn't say that.
No, you suggested it. By your supposition, it means that it's a recommendation to the House.
But I said you can disagree, but it doesn't mean that...
But that's exactly what I'm doing. So you shouldn't have reacted.
Go ahead, Roxanne.
You understand?
Your 1 minute is actually up.
Then two, the suspension of the Fiscal Responsibility Act was because you breached it heavily during the 2020 running up to the elections.
Do you agree with him that instead of calling for a capping of borrowing and all of that, we should rather seek the reinstatement of the Fiscal Responsibility Act?
I agree with the latter option, which is the reinstatement of the law, because when Parliament passes the law, it's the responsibility of the executive to implement. And they've suspended some other laws. Look, here in Kenya, one of the recommendations that we took away from the seminar we attended is to get our executives to be capped. Today is running away from that candidate position. No, seminars that we contributed copiously. In fact, we were commended as one of the most outstanding country reps. Look, Professor Nyaku knows that if you don't cap a government, the government can go haywire like they are doing.
Even in the United States, we see
Thank
that
you.
happening.
So we need to be capped. It's one of the strongest recommendations. And to also have a borrowing plan. Let us know how much you want to borrow in the year. It's very important.
All right. Now let's...
you can ask Parliament to approve 8 loans in a day.
I'm not reacting to what they said.
8 loans in a day.
30 seconds. Let's go.
You see, our debt volumes also depend on the strength of our currency. When the budget was read, our debt situation was about 530 billion cedis, right?
Yeah.
Right? At that time, the exchange rate was about $1 was about 15 or 14.
It's government's duty to stabilize the economy.
I agree. But I'm saying that as we speak,
5.5.
As we speak, the cedi has gained against the dollar. So it means that the debt position
has shifted slightly.
Will come down because of so it means that if we are able to get one cedi, $1 to let's say 9 cedis or 10 cedis, that quantum will come down, and we can only achieve that. We can largely achieve that if we are able to, get some external cash, and that will be if we do value addition. We export more, and get the money, increase our domestic tax mobilization. The
one is taking my time.
You are saying things that have already been prophesied, which have really not amounted to anything. If you look at the DDEP, how much, after all the pain that we've been through, how much has it shaved off? 1%, a paltry 1%. So maybe we should save that conversation for another day. But I just want us to quickly look at the Frimpong Boateng issue. I've not had the opportunity of discussing with members of parliament like this on that matter. A few matters, if you look at the Ghanaian Times today, the Forestry Commission's CEO says there's no lease or permit granted to small-scale mining companies to operate in any forest reserve. In the meantime, when you look at the Daily Graphic today, I don't have it here, but it says, I think over 4,000 hectares have been, affected, despoliation of land and natural resources. Then you look at the investigative end, the OSP investigating Professor Frimpong Boateng's report. The Jubilee House initially came out and said investigations were underway. I do not know where that has gone to. But right after that, we had justifications from the same Jubilee House, representatives, members of social media, attacking, basically, Professor Frimpong Boateng. Yesterday also, we heard from the Lands and Natural Resources Minister, who was also saying, look, yes, he has presented a report. It's gathered dust for 2 years, by the way. It's now come to light. But there are portions that, yes, may have some meat in there, but other portions we may have to jettison. And he uses the words that what this report evinces is not scripture. But if you look at where we find ourselves, Galamsey, year on year, has become incrementally worse. I showed here footage that shows that rivers like the Pra, if you go there, what we saw last year, what we are seeing now, things are becoming murkier. The river is becoming dirtier. The Ankobra, the Brim, everything is maybe not gone. We've been told by scientists that it may take as much as 100 years if we stopped completely Galamsey activities. It may take about 100 years. By that time, maybe our great-great-grandchildren would be here. And what would be bequeathing to them? So what do you make of this report? And how do we show some real political will in the fight? The last I heard, we're going to employ the military and all of that again. We've done that. It has failed. Roxanne, I'll start with you. And looking at the passage of time, I'll give both of you.
I'll be very brief.
3 minutes, 30 seconds.
But I'm pained that you fail to acknowledge that I've sent a petition to Shrag in this matter.
But I mentioned it earlier.
No, I didn't hear.
I mentioned it earlier. Okay. Did you hear me, Prof?
I could re-emphasize.
I made mention of that.
So re-emphasize.
In fact, that was when I was asking for your other names, and you said
okay. I agree, but re-emphasize. It's so important. Look, Professor Frimpong Boateng's report, but for the fact that he himself released it, that report could have been concealed from everyone. That is my position on the matter.
How problematic is that?
Because you see, he submitted the report in March 2021. It was released onto the public domain in later of March or in April 2023. After 2 clear years. Meanwhile, the report was sent to the office of the president. So if somebody suggests that he gathered dust, the dust gathering was intentional. It was intentional that he should gather dust. But it's been dusted off. It's receiving attention. So my position on the matter is that Shrag should look into the matter.
The OSP is also looking into the matter.
All well and good. All well and good. Because I see why OSP will come in because of the corruption angle. Because that's their mandate. So Shrag is mainly concerned with the conduct of public officers, abuse of office and all that. So all we are interested in is that we've invested heavily in fighting these Galamsey menace. So if the people, the gatekeepers who are supposed to go and protect the land, have turned themselves into the degraders, then the law will have to take its course.
In terms of the law taking its course, I think you have about 1.5 minutes left. It also cites, I noticed that usually when members of the NDC come, no one talks about the fact that it also points to at least one person, or about 2 of them, from your party.
I'll react to that.
How do you react? All Galamsey be Galamsey.
No. Yes, I agree. That portion of the report is so nebulous.
That portion is nebulous?
Yes. If you say NDC members, NDC has over 8 million registered members. I'm not trying to trivialize any matter, but you were very specific when it came to NPP actors.
But he mentioned one NDC.
Hold on. You see, he didn't mention his name. He said a former deputy minister, I think in the
Western region,
who is also a member of parliament, and then in the Western region.
But he mentioned a constituency.
That is an innuendo.
He did mention a constituency.
Yes, so I am not here.
So if your party wanted to dig, you would also call that, member of parliament.
But what I've done in my petition,
and follow through.
Hold on. What I've done in my petition is for Shrag to look into the conduct of everyone. I'm not shielding anybody. Right. And the NDC won't shield anybody. Let this be placed on record that the NDC didn't hold this press conference to shield anybody. If any NDC member is found culpable, the law will apply equally.
All right. Let me come to you, Prof, on this matter, this vexed issue of Galamsey. And some feel your administration is trivializing the matter. Some feel this is a very serious issue that international bodies have also picked up. And we're treating it with kid gloves, so to speak.
I don't think so. I don't think so. The government means business. The government is doing everything possible to ensure that illegal mining activities in this country is done away with. The issue regarding
I just have an issue. I'll give you your 3 minutes on this. But tell me, look me in the eye, Prof. Is government winning the fight against Galamsey? In fact, have we not, at this point, when you look at all the efforts from the military to everything, and to the sums of money we've invested from the IMCIM to others, are we winning anything against Galamsey?
The point I'm making is that...
No, I want you to address that question. No, have we won anything
against Galamsey? The point I'm making is that the government is fighting the menace. The government is making progress.
What progress?
I believe that this battle will be won. Coming back to Professor Frimpong,
if you're going to win a war, you start by winning battles. You are not winning any battle to talk of win a war.
You can also win it at the last minute. You can win it at the last minute in football.
So that's what the NPP is planning to do.
I used to laugh.
Maybe in 2024, before elections, you win the war against Galamsey.
The point I'm making is that even in football at times, a team will be on the back foot, but that team will win.
No, your analogy is wrong.
Oh, it's not wrong.
No, hold on.
You give him a second.
But when I was on the floor, you came. That's a small point. Wars, battles are small bits of ice in a war.
I just mentioned that.
See? So if you use soccer analogy, soccer is a one-off.
No,
it's just one-off.
Soccer is a 90-minute. It's a 90.
So it's a one-off game.
It's 90. So it's not one-off. 90-minute activity.
It's a one-off.
So there is a process.
We may explain to you that there's the first battle in the first half, and the second battle.
And the second at evening time. You know?
Go ahead.
So it is a difficult fight. By all accounts. But I will encourage the government to be still focused or more focused.
You're in government. Are you still encouraging government?
No.
I mean, by now, you should have been showing us results.
No. I mean, more courageous to nip this in the bud. Professor Pimpon's report, I've gone through it. I've gone through the report.
Do you believe it?
But that is why there's an investigation into it. So for me, I think that investigation will help us to get to the bottom of the matter. Some are saying that what is captured in the report is hearsay. I read of them. Some names have been mentioned and all that. They've also issued statement to deny what he has said. If I make a point, if I make allegation against you and you come to defend it, your word against my word. So independent bodies should be able to unravel the mystery for us to get to the bottom of the matter. And when that one is done, all those who are found culpable must be dealt with according to the records of the law. But you see, for me,
that's
what
the
is
problem.
painful?
That's
What
the
is
problem.
painful?
From the PPP boss to everybody else who has been cited for anything in this administration, somehow nobody gets punished. Worst case scenario, you may fall to what Charles Ibuahin fell to. You may be removed from your position. In this country. And Galamsey is criminal.
In this country, I'm saying that we must think about the nation first. That is very important. The government, the citizens, the media, everybody must see this as their unique obligation in ensuring that our water bodies, our forests are preserved for us today and for posterity. That is my point, because see, what is happening? People are involved and all that. If you are a patriot, if you love your country, you think about posterity. You do everything possible.
But the very people we say should love their countries, who are ministers and this and that, are the very people being pointed to by a former minister for engaging in the destruction, of our natural resources.
And the same individuals, the same citizens, the same media people, the same chief somewhere, the same greedy individuals are also people who, because of their selfish motivation and interest, are undermining the future of this country. This government must make sure that the reports from Professor Pimpon's, no matter how it is described, must be subjected to scrutiny, investigation properly conducted, and if we love this country, we must do the right thing to ensure that you see, individuals.
All right, point made. We're running out of time.
At the expense of the states. That is not.
Do you expect anything to emanate from any of these investigations? OSP, Shraj, you petitioned Shraj.
Yes.
There's also you're even calling for a parliamentary probe.
Yes, that's from my leadership.
What are you?
I was going to make a point. 30 seconds. Yesterday, I was with Ken Japan. He said that he had an issue with Kwaku Bakun, at the court, and he invited Professor Pimpon's was a witness in the case, at least to come and
testify.
Yes,
to a matter.
He didn't come. We don't know why he didn't even show up to testify, because Kwaku Bakun is captured in the document. Come and testify. You didn't show up. So that's why we need to investigate to find out whether what is captured there are true, hearsay, or contrived.
All right. Thank you very much. I guess with time, we'll find out from the Shraj and from the OSP's end. Professor Pimpon's will have his day and have his say.
All of them.
Definitely.
He will be, the Shraj will hear all sides. They will hear all sides, all the alteram. So, I mean,
of course, we'll listen to the other
let's
side.
Give them time. And I'm very happy that they want to do a public hearing.
That is what you've been pushing for.
Yes.
That's what you've been calling for.
They've agreed.
Let's wrap the conversation by bringing in Justice Gertrude Tokonu. Decades of service to the country in the judicial system. She'll be the third in a string of women from, I think, around 2007, is it? Who have been Chief Justice in this country. She would be the third in line. What do you make of this latest development? What does this mean for our judiciary? The former president, John Dramani Mahama, has been castigating the judiciary, saying some things about the like. No, he's questioned the posturing of the judiciary.
Yes, but
that of course is questioning.
In reference to some
he's even questioned the Chief Justice himself.
Yes, in respect of some cases.
Exactly, that is the point I'm making.
So
what then would this mean for you?
Yes, I have a problem even with the CJ. CJ is my friend, but he and I, we've had problems.
Right.
Because look, there are some constitutionally time-bound cases. For instance, I'm in court in respect of.
We don't have that much time.
That. For instance, I've challenged the power of the president to ask DCEs when there's a transition, during the transition, to proceed to act in office without properly being appointed. That matter is still pending. We are in the third year. I've challenged the Yayin Tiamwa report, Professor Yayin Tiamwa report, seeking to make the first lady, second lady, Article 71 office holders to give them emoluments. That matter is still in court. I don't know when that judgment will be delivered today. So when those constitutionally sensitive cases are filed, I expect that will be heard timeously. The minority is in court challenging the decision, all right, of Parliament to reverse the motion that rejected the budget in respect of the issue of the quorum. That matter has been pushed on the back burner. You understand my point? So when these things happen like that, it's a problem. It's a problem. But I've practiced before Justice Tokonu, both in the commercial court when she first came onto the bench as a High Court judge, and then when she was elevated to the Court of Appeal, and then to the Supreme Court a couple of years ago. So I know her very well.
How do you find her? I don't want to repeat this, but someone joined the show the other day and passed certain comments about how she relates, supposedly from lawyers to members of the bar. I wouldn't go ahead to say what was said. And many people say very glowing things about her, but others have also expressed some concerns about how she treats lawyers in court. What's your reaction to that? I'll not state what the person said, because the person said it on my show anyway.
I think she's never embarrassed me in court. She's rather one judge who, during my formative years at the bar, would put you right and would tell you how to do things to improve. And yeah, so anytime you want to appear before her, you are well prepared. She was that kind of judge. And also Justice Tanko. The two of them, and then Barbara Kayensu.
I think he's due for retirement, right?
I'm not aware. I'm not aware. But Justice Tanko, Justice Tokonu, Justice Barbara Kayensu, and there was one, I'd forgotten his name. Those, the commercial court had 6 courts. And these were judges that, if you were going to the commercial division and you were appearing before any of these, you have to put your house in order. So there was that trepidation amongst lawyers, but I knew my law. I had my flair, so I never panicked. You go, you deliver, and the commercial practice slightly different from civil litigation, quasi-civil litigation, because it went through processes before you appear before a judge. There is an initial process where issues will be settled and all that before you appear before a substantive judge. So they did well at the Court of Appeal level too, and appear before them so many times. Myself and Justice Tanko and Barbara Kayensu. And all of this had a special relationship perhaps with my boss, Chasaibo, Togbe Teprehodo. So perhaps, in practice, if you came from a certain chamber there's a way that judges look at you. Yes, if you were practicing from some chamber, there's a way they look at you. They knew that if this chamber, the training is this way. Yes. So perhaps that also...
All that factored in.
Yes.
What do you think it would mean for our democratic practice?
Yes, a third CJ. But I think...
Female.
Yes, the issue that people have are some of views in terms of some of the political question cases. But we'll see how it goes.
All right, we'll see how it goes.
But I wish her all the best. She and I, we have a very good relationship.
All right.
Yes.
For you, what does this mean?
Yeah. So I mean, it's good. It's good for her. I don't know her personally, but I've read a little about her. Being 19 years with the judiciary, 4 years at the Supreme Court, and I think that at her age, and her pedigree, she'll be able to help us to move. Further within our legal framework. I know much about the current CJ Aniaboa and my very good friend Duche. I worked with them when I was at NAB, and we went to visit institutions that run law programs. That was when I saw Aniaboa, his understanding and his focus and motivation, very conservative. I mean, he will always make sure that they have the law reports and the books, everything there, you know what I mean? So when he became the CJ, I was not surprised because he's meticulous, he's very conservative, and also very firm, you know what I mean? And if you look at what he has done, I'll come there. Look at what he's done. You see, his focus for me was the establishment of courts that he has done. So I'm hoping that Tokono Gertrude will follow in his suit and do something different to enhance the image of the legal profession and judiciary. She has to be firm, she has to be bold and dispense impartial judgment. We have our considerations in deciding everything, religious, political, and all that. But if she wants to make a huge impact, she wants to be on the minds of the citizens, I will encourage her to be bold and firm and dispense justice without fear or favor. Right. I think that if she did this, society will benefit, her image will soar, and the rest will be history. I wish her all the best. Let us understand, as human beings, then we have our differences and our biases. But at the end of the day, we must look at the person on what they've done contextually and come to a reasoned judgment and conclusion. You don't look like we are very good friends. We went to Kenya together. As usual, he tried to bully me, but at the point, somebody told him that you don't have to do that. You know what I mean? So I wish her all the best. Let our judiciary win. Let our democracy be deepened, and let us not mistrust people who have been nominated for position because you think that they might be aligned to A, or because they were nominated by A. By all means, that person will do the bidding of the person that did nominate them. If we continue that tangent, we will be suspicious of the actions and movements of some people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining the conversation today. It's been a good one, and keep up the yeoman's job that you're doing in your constituencies. I found it very interesting the way we started. Yeah. Both of you are doing some fantastic stuff in your constituencies. Do keep it up, and of course the people
vote for him
need more. And Roxanne, don't forget to send me the photos you spoke of. Yes. We'll use that as evidence later on. Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo, I nearly murdered your name. Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekpo. He murders my name all the time.
Really?
Should I say it?
But I've mastered it now.
Even the last time we spoke on phone or so, I don't know why he tends to call me Agbeko. I don't know why. My Akakpo, he turns it upside down. So today, if I've done a little to you, Roxanne Nelson Eche Kwame Dafiamekpo is Member of Parliament for South Dine. We also had now Professor Kingsley Nyako, Member of Parliament for Kwara. So they both joined the conversation this morning. But stay with us
UCC
because right after this,
yeah, mate.
Today being a Wednesday, courtesy of EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, we're coming your way with AM Business. And today, aggrieved customers of defunct Gold Coast Fund Management are giving the Securities and Exchange Commission a 3-day ultimatum to pay their locked up funds. That up next on the AM Show.
We are here at the Securities and Exchange Commission premises here in Cantonment, and we have the aggrieved customers of the Gold Coast Fund Management. It's been over 4 years now, and they've still not been paid. That is with respect to their locked up funds. I have the convener of this particular group. He's been raising a lot of concerns, basically how this has happened for the past 4 years. Charles, I just want to understand, just run me through what has been the situation all the way from the cleanup sector, that is the financial sector cleanup, all the way to today.
Thank you very much. The financial cleanup exercise was a policy initiated by the government, that Akufo-Addo government. And before the policy was initiated, the government assured us that the policy is coming to protect our investment and our deposits. So we all embrace it. With assurance of payment, it has been 5 years now. Monies have been approved by the Parliament for our payments. After monies were approved, the Securities and Exchange Commission, representing the government in this whole thing, jumped into the scene to put in conditionalities, reasons why these monies couldn't be dispersed themselves. On my table, officially, I have invitation for over 800 old people who have died. And there's a similar situation that ran through their death. They couldn't afford medical bills to go through medications and whatever. Therefore, they have to die. We are pleading with the government. As it stands now, it has been 5 years. They say that there is a court case going on. We customers, we don't care. We don't want to go to court. We have no interest in the court case. Government should go ahead and settle us with a bailout package that has been set and approved by Parliament. To curtail the needless death, because people are dying. We are pleading with the government that conditionality, that unless they secure the liquidation order, this is not a constitutional instrument. It is government discretion, and we are appealing to the government to rescind on it. Come to think of it, Akufo-Addo stood on the stage on one of his fellow Ghanaians address saying that he has paid all victims of financial cleanup exercise. But here we are, over 55,000 of Gold Coast Fund Management customers alone. We have not been paid. We have other fund management companies too who have not been paid. But Gold Coast alone, 55,000 customers, we haven't received a single payment. We are pleading with the government. He has been misinformed that we have been paid. We have not been paid. The government should come out. We have 1 week to tell us something.
Right. So you spoke about certain legal proceedings. I don't know, is SEC saying this is preventing them from giving out your monies?
That's what they are deceiving the public with. Securities and Exchange Commission is deceiving the public with. When the issue came, the government was confronted by 2 ways that he could have chosen either of them to pay us. That is through bailout package or liquidation order route. According to Securities and Exchange Commission, their own press release, they said that they advised the government to use the bailout route because per the experiences that they have in their operation, some liquidation cases can take 2 decades. That's 20 years in the courts. And these people are old people, so they advise the government to use the bailout package. Bailout package means that government should find money and pay the customers. Then the government can deal with the legal matters through the liquidation route and take over the assets of the company and settle the government debts. That's the advice they gave to them. Now, after the liquidation order has been, after the bailout package has been approved, you then made U-turn to use the route that you say can take 20 years as a condition that unless you get that order, that liquidation order that can take 20 years in the court, you want to get it before you disburse the package that is available. What doesn't make sense?
So you've been speaking about the fact that the government has been misled. Now, I just wonder, what is the engagement like with the government, with the Ministry of Information? Do you, in the coming days, do you foresee you petitioning the government or the Ministry of Finance?
Yes, we have done that through the Speaker of Parliament, and we are going to follow it up because the monies were approved at the Parliament House, and we have petitioned the Speaker already on that, and we are going to follow it up.
Why not do it directly to the Ministry of Finance?
For the Ministry of Finance, they don't even have the courtesy to respond to acknowledge our letters. We've written to them several times, which they don't even acknowledge.
It's only Ghana that you cannot do investments. It's only Ghana that you cannot do investments. And I believe investment is important for everybody. If you know you'll be going on pension, what you have to do is to making sure that you have investment, and this investment will cater for your family, your children, and every extended families. It's only Ghana. Only Ghana. 6 years ago, we did investment, and this investment has been just closed down, and nothing good is coming out. And we cannot even hear from the government when these monies are going to be paid. People are dying day in, day out to hear stories. Customers are dying, and nobody in the government could tell us anything. Even military government, not the military government even closed down sort of banks. In democracy, democratic government closing banks and let people suffering, I can't believe that. Today, they are telling us a different thing altogether. So what is this inscription? If the inscription is telling us it's protecting sort of investor protection, then it means it has to, making sure that whatever they are doing should be in our satisfaction, not for the government. And government cannot, never, in any way, government cannot take any decision that is for their own benefit. It should be the benefit of the citizenship. And you see today, police all over, dress up like a war. This is a terrible country. This is a useless country that we are in. And I'm telling you, some of us, we are ready to face anybody who actually will fight us.
That amount of money, the same 40 million, went beyond 800 plus as of December last year. So even the 220, which I have is nothing. You understand what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, the government came in, we did some regularization, and I was given 50,000 Ghana cedi, and that was the end. I mean, the 40 million sefa, an amount that could have bought me a 2-bedroom apartment in the UK, anywhere in the world. That was how it ended. As I talk to you now, my husband is a retiree, and he suffered stroke after this whole, what do you call it, DDEP, whatever came into being. And he's right here in the car from the hospital. You know, when he has things were getting better, when the Ministry of Finance promised we're going to pay them, he became a bit better. Now, the whole of yesterday, he couldn't speak. We're just from the hospital. Right here is in the car. And so this is I am an individual bondholder myself. So I have my children in school, my husband has retired, and we both have our bonds, and now it is this amount of money, as I'm saying, was 40 million sefa, which I took as a loan with interest when I was redeployed from Abuja to Togo. And that is why I'm here this morning.
Right, so we have one of the aggrieved customers here. He would also tell me what the story has been like. Hello, sir. Talk to me. How much did you invest into Gold Coast? And over the years, how has it been for you?
Well, one age, I work at the Anglo Ashanti. 2014, we came on retrenchment. So because I was then old, I decided to invest my money in Gold Coast Security so that I can take care of my children who are not of age. I invested almost about 200,000 Ghana cedis, 200,000 Ghana cedis. Things were moving right until 2018 that I went to their office and I was told the government has through the government, have given order the company to close. Since then, it has been very difficult for us. It was only when we agitated, and 2020, the government came out of bailout. Unfortunately, that 50,000 that I collected, by then, I own so many people, so I have to pay. I was waiting for the remaining amount to take care of myself as a pensioner. I'm now a pensioner. Also to take care of my children and my family. Unfortunately for me also, the little pension that is being paid by Senate cannot take me to even to 10th of the month. So it has been a very difficult time for me. So I will plead with Nanado, the president, Baumia and Kenufurata, to at least have pity on the pensioners so that our money will be given to us to enable us to take care of our children. So that when the law calls us, we will go in peace.
Right, so that's some concerns with respect to some of these aggrieved customers here at the premises of the Security and Exchange Commission. When you look at some of the placards they have here, over 800 pensioners are there due to locked up funds. Also, they're asking the president in recent times said that some of these depositors, or basically most of them have been paid. They're asking when were they being paid this amount. Just right behind me, you could see a number of them, both the old and the young, women, men, waiting anxiously for their monies to be paid. And this tells you they are really keen this time in getting their funds to be paid, or their lockdown funds to be paid to them. So that's the situation here at the premises of the Security and Exchange Commission. For Joy Business, James Ishen.
So why? So why? Oh yeah, Benji Yasika. Yeah, Benji Yasika. Jessica.
Well, thank you for staying with us on the AM show. It's always good to have you. Thank you for staying. And up next, we're talking literary work. We're talking, well, poetry to be specific. All roads lead to the Goethe Institute, if you want to sound a German. And there's very good reason. Now, to help walk us through what we can expect at Goethe Abansoro, we have joining us in the studio Elizabeth Johnson. She's with the Writers Project of Ghana, and Dr. Martin Egble Wogbe as well, a physicist, a lecturer who is very much into literature as well, neck deep or maybe eyebrow deep. Not overtaking the crowd. It's an event by the Writers Project of Ghana, and to help us get into that, we have our guest this morning. Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Elizabeth. It's been a while. These are two of my people in the literary space, and today they join. Tell us a bit. I'll start with you, Doc. This whole concept, Goethe Abansoro, How many times have we had this?
Well, we are in our second year now.
Second year.
Yeah, so we probably have had about 8 to 9 editions of Good Abansro so far.
So we do it every quarter?
We do it once every second month. Yeah.
Once every second month.
Exactly. Yeah, and the whole concept really, we know we have poetry readings and performances. There are a lot of them in town right now. But we wanted a program that allowed the audience to interact more deeply with the poets. So the whole idea is to have a themed poetry reading and discussion, so that the poets are able to talk more about what drives their work. And we also allow for audience interaction. So any member of the audience is able to also ask questions. And this is one of the programs that we are doing in collaboration with our partners, the Goethe Institute. So it's one of many programs. And as you did mention, it's actually a program which would excite a lot of people. I mean, even if you are someone who thinks you don't like poetry, this program will allow you to interact deeply with creative people. And you might find out that poetry is your thing after all.
You might find out. All right, so that's the trajectory so far of Goethe Institute's Goethe Abansro. But I'd like to find out, the Writers Project, but within these first 8 or so installments that you've had, what have they been like in terms of participation, in terms of the authors, so to speak, that you've hosted? What has the experience been like?
Well, I think it's been really fantastic because we've actually hosted a lot of very...
Tell us about some of them.
People. Well, I can mention, for example, Dami Ajayi.
Okay.
He is a Nigerian poet, well noted. In fact, his books do very well, especially because of what he writes about, And he joined us from the United Kingdom, for example. We've had, one of the early people we've had was our own Ghanaian Nia Ikwe Parks, and he featured. And in between, we have had almost 16 to 18 well-rounded, notable poets to join us on that program. And in terms of the audience, it kind of gets mixed, but we usually have a good number. And the key thing which I've noticed is the engagement. The audience actually seems to get something from the reading. And if you can judge that by the kind of questions that they ask and the kind of interaction that they wind up having with the guest poets. Yeah.
For you, Elizabeth, as a member of the Writers Project, what has this journey been like? I know you've been in there in the thick of things, oftentimes maybe even serving as a moderator or something of the sort along the way. What has this meant, especially as you are in my category, so to speak. Doc has left us a bit more advanced. What does it mean for young people when they come for these events?
I think it's been, I'll start with my personal experience. It's been a growth for me. A lot of the opportunities I've had to grow in the literary and by extension the cultural space has been because of my work with the Writers Project of Ghana. So I've been able to work with writers, I've been doing some editing, some research, and most lately curating events for institutions and also moderating as well. In terms of my writing, it has also given me opportunity to publish my work in a few spaces. And so I guess for the personal growth, it has been amazing. For young people, I do know that there are a few contemporary writers who got a lot of exposure and experience and also opportunities with their engagement with Writers Project of Ghana. So we don't only have the Goethe at Abansro, the Poetry at Abansro. We have several events over the year, our biggest being the festival in October, which has given opportunities such as writing opportunities, publishing deals, and for some schooling to pursue an MFA in creative writing. So it's a broad spectrum of opportunities that it brings to people. It depends on your interest area. So you could be an editor, a writer, a publisher, or you're looking to even illustrate for creative works.
I'll tell you something. You do want to find your way to the Writers Project. Do you have a website or something of the sort? What is it?
WritersProjectGhana.com.
Exactly. You want to check out a lot of what they're going to be doing every year, and I've participated in some of their activities. Every year they have quite a lineup. If you are that literary, insatiable person, you might want to go to them and get all you need. They will satisfy you, whether it's prose or verse. But as Elizabeth spoke, something came to mind. People have spoken about the fact that the literary landscape in Ghana is not as vibrant as it used to be. From the days of Amata Edu, and all the others that we've seen, Professor Ayikwe too, among others. Now, there is always that impression that the standards have sort of fallen and that we've been overtaken by the likes of Nigeria and the rest. What is the reality when you organize such programs? What shows? I know a number of them. The other day we were at the readathon and we saw some amazing writers. What is the reality?
Well, so I think it's a bit mixed. You know, what I would say is that definitely there was a time that we saw a dip. You know, from, let's say, the golden years of...
Golden era of...
But what has happened in the past, like 4 or 5 years, is that people have noticed this decline and have actually kicked in to try and...
There's a resurgence.
There's a resurgence. I mean, we are here talking on one of the biggest TV programs in the morning, talking about literature. So people have noticed this and they are doing what it takes to make things different. And I have to say, thank you very much to Joy FM for making this possible for us to speak about literature on air.
And we'll continue to do a lot more. In fact, we're starting a program along those lines. So you can expect us to do a lot more in that regard. But specifically on poetry as well. I've read some brilliant works. Some of them I never even knew existed. Young people and the sort of poetry. So some would go back again to some of the known figures like Professor Lade Wasonu, the Master Brewer, among others. But there are also very young people doing many great things. How are these showing up, popping up at the events you organize, whether it's Goethe Bansro or other events like the main one in October, Peja, among others?
Well, so I'll start, and I'm sure Elizabeth has something to share about this as well. But I can say for sure that the young people are showing up strongly. The event we're having this evening, we have a very bright youngster, I'll say youngster, Apioko. He is making waves in the poetry scene, you know, and so that is one person we can point at. But there are several people who we've discovered through our journals, who come on radio, etc. And you see that they have precious talent. You know, and all they needed was somewhere to expose their talent.
Exposure.
You know? Yes, there are many of them. Elizabeth, you can add.
Yeah, I'll just say that a lot of the contemporary writers and poets are sharing their work online, so with journals and other international platforms. You can find a lot of them on social media, on Twitter, for example. They are always, it's more or less like a community, and so if you don't know about them, you wouldn't know, but then they are there. And what they try to do is, with the issue with publishing, they publish their stuff in a small publication online, and then what we do is we interact with them, especially during the festival. So every year there's something that comes out from these
I know we've had some anthologies.
Yes, and so they come, they feature, then we see the writers face to face, have a conversation with them, and then some of them actually get to publish the anthologies in physical books or gets them recognized by international bodies. So they do exist. They are online, mainly on Twitter and Instagram, and publishing on online platforms. Yeah.
Speaking of which, I've just forgotten his name. A friend of mine who is in academia now. I think he was in one of the anthologies. And then I saw one. Abracadabra Adabraka or something of the sort.
Yes,
I think I don't know why that one comes to mind, but it's the title that got
fantastic play with words, isn't it? Yeah. So I think the one who is in academia right now is Ejoji
Abuzo.
Just picked up his PhD recently. And then the Abracadabra Adabraka was written by Nana Fredro Ajiman.
Nana Fredro Ajiman, yeah. Someone else I've not seen in a while whom I should really catch up with. But tell us, Elizabeth, about those who are coming. So we have Apioko. We also have Louisa. Tell us a bit about them. What do they do? What can we expect?
I mean, you have to read their works. I can mention Kweku Henetre, who is one of the leading voices when it comes to poetry. He's always pushing people to share their works. And we also have Osei Sapong, who is also really good. Awo Chumwa is also there. One of the biggest names would be Ama Asantwa Diaka, popularly known as Poetra. She has her own journal, and she calls for submissions for poetry and fiction, and then every quarter they publish an anthology. And so these are a few names that come to mind. But then again, if you follow Writers Project on Twitter at WritersPG, you would kind of get into the flood of all these writers who are there. And yes, many of them are pursuing and writing MFAs. Many of them are writing on the side of their full-time jobs because we have to survive Ghana. And then also looking for other opportunities. So it's a growing space. Yeah. It's getting bigger with diverse voices and journalists coming out.
Well, it's really good to hear. So this evening, 7 p.m. Goethe Institute.
Yes.
Can you, maybe for those who don't know where
right.
it is?
So it's in the enclave of the American Embassy. So, I mean, it's in that area. I'm sure
Or NAFTI.
I
think
NAFTI.
NAFTI is
Actually,
much
it's
closer.
just adjacent to NAFTI.
Right.
Yeah, so it's easy to find. And entrance is free. I really would like people to come. It's not free to put up the program, but we want people to come, so entrance is free. Yeah. So,
and kudos to you. You do a lot of these where people can simply walk in and benefit. It's an amazing work you do, and I think today we ought to salute you, the Writers Project Ghana, and the wonderful things you together with your team are doing. Of course, Nana Fredo Ajiman also contributing his own bit from where he is. But just to wrap, quick expectations. What can we look forward to? You have not shared.
Yeah, you know the two people we have today, later this evening, Louisa Ajua Parker and Apioko. There's something very unique about them. Both of them are excellent performers, and then they also have published work. You know, so there is that kind of bridging, you know, and their work is also notable. Apioko has the Matriarch's Verse, and the recent publication of Louisa is She Can Still Sing, you know, and the poetry actually is very deep in the sense of what it tries to do, analyzing our personal relation with things in the society. So it is going to be a really great conversation. We are trying to theme it on the idea of presentation, representation, masking, and whether a poet can really be authentic to themselves and to their society. It's really an engaging conversation as well.
I wish I weren't going to be in class this evening. It would have been really interesting to pass by. But I know there are going to be subsequent events at which many of us can participate. Just before you go, just walk us through a few other things that you have cooking.
I'll mention one which is coming up on the 20th of May at the Alliance Française.
20th of May?
Yes.
What day is that?
That's, well, I don't know. I think it probably is a Saturday. Let's quickly check.
So 20th May... That's a Saturday.
That's a Saturday.
So it's a weekend.
Yes.
Most of us can try and
at 3 p.m. And there's this Ghanaian writer who actually is becoming very notable in the international and local space. Her name is Bisi Ajipon. You know, her Facebook did very well. And the second book that she has right now is Daughter in Exile, published by HarperCollins. And she's going to be presenting from that book on the 20th at the Alliance Française. That's a really big program in terms of, and her writing. I mean, if we are talking about Ghanaian writers not being there or not being visible, this is a clear example. And she's going to be on stage with another prominent Ghanaian writer, Nana Dakwon Stechiama.
Okay.
Yes. And so, I mean, it's going to absolutely, it's going to be a feast on the 20th. But we would mention that we have monthly readings at the Goethe Institute. So there's going to be another one coming up last Wednesday of the month. We'll give details later. And every month we do have readings, you know, every last Wednesday, in the build-up, of course, to Pija, which is a 3-day festival, international festival. We are speaking up more than 80 writers from all over the world in Accra at the Goethe.
So my final bit to you, two things that just came to mind. Do you organize writing clinics? I'm sure there are those two who are interested in, I have a bit of the skill, I have a bit of the talent, my teacher says I write well, stuff like that. Do you organize those? And then I couldn't help, I don't know whether you've hosted them before, The Last Crucible, The Close of Nakedness. I'm talking about Benjamin Kwachi. Have we had Benjamin Kwachi before?
Yes, several times.
Okay. then I have missed out.
Oh, you've missed out.
I have missed out. I was just thinking, it would be a fun one to
absolutely. He's been at the festival. We've had readings with him. I would mention about the Mo Issa writing workshops.
Okay.
This is a yearly workshop that we run from the Writers Project. We usually take about 10 people. And what happens is that we make a call, people apply, and we select just about 10. They run for about 2 months, training and improvement of their writing. So we'll make the call. So the name can be kept in mind, Mo Issa Writing Workshop. It's done a lot for writers.
Great. Great stuff. It's been phenomenal having the two of you. And again, congratulations on the good work you're doing for the literary space in Ghana. This must live, it must not die, and it must thrive. Dr. Martin Egblewogbe is with the Writers Project in Ghana. And of course, no excuses. He's a physicist, yet he's very deep in this space. We also have Elizabeth Johnson as well, both of them with the Writers Project Ghana. Make it a point, Goethe Institute, this evening at 7, Goethe Abansro. That's what's happening. And those two poets there. We take a break. We'll return and pick your calls. It's your time now on the AM show. We'd love to hear from you. We hosted the members of parliament this morning, Kwadaso and South Dai, Roxanne Nelson, Dafia McBoy, and of course, Professor Kingsley Nyako. They shared their thoughts on myriad matters. We had AM Business, Gold Coast Fund Management, and their thoughts there. And we just spoke about Goethe Abansro, what you can expect later today at 7 p.m. What are your thoughts? We also spoke about the Galamsey issue, Professor Frimpong Boateng's report, and all the matters arising, the OSP's investigation. What do you think? Call that number, 0302-211-691. 0302-211-691. Let's know what your thoughts are on these matters. In the interim, as we await your calls, a happy 60th birthday to Mona K. Quartey. Mona K. Quartey, former Deputy Minister of Finance and Managing Partner, BVM Advisory Services. Your name leapt out immediately I saw it. Mona Quartey, 60th birthday. Happy birthday to you. 60 looks good on you, Mona, and we wish you the very best going into the rest of the year and the coming years and decades. There's also Philma Menu, a health information officer at the Sifi Rialso Government Hospital. To you as well, Philma Menu, a very happy birthday. We have our first caller on the line. Hello, good morning. Hello, Solomon. Hello.
Hello, I'm on the line. Good morning.
I know you're on the line. I can hear you now. Good morning. What are your thoughts for us?
Okay.
What are your thoughts for us, please?
I want to contribute to what you just discussed when the Member of Parliament was on your station.
Right.
I heard him saying that he lobbied for so many projects in the district, which are not true.
You mean Professor Nyako when he said they had borrowed for so many projects at the districts? Oh, you're referring to Dafia Mekwa rather?
Yes, please.
Okay. So what exactly is not true? The borrowing, I don't quite get the point.
Before he started his comments, he made some points that he has lobbied for constructions of dormitories, he has lobbied for constructions of dining halls and other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, apparently the construction of those projects were started by a former MP who is Honorable Esima.
But I think he made the point here that some of those projects were started by someone else. I think he mentioned one or two. I don't know whether the other ones you're referencing, but he did make mention of that. And he said he was continuing with some of those projects and he has started others. So I don't know whether you got that part of it, just to be fair to him as well. But thank you, Solomon, for calling.
I will be fair to him. He is doing his possible best to bring South Dai to life. That's one we all acknowledge.
Okay.
When you are on a bigger platform, you acknowledge your predecessors. I mean, you give credit.
Hello? Well, Solomon, but I think your point is made. But like I said, I did hear him. There was a point where he actually took his time to acknowledge people, including his predecessor. And he cited one of them for even helping with a project. So I don't get really what you were trying to. But the point is made. Thank you for calling. We have time for about 2 more calls. If you're minded to do so, you can call and share your thoughts with us. Call that number at the bottom of your screens, 0302-211-691. Is it Moses? Hello?
Hello.
Is it Moses?
Yes, Akable. How are you?
I'm well, sir. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Tamale.
Tamale. Moses, please, what are your thoughts for us this morning?
Yes. I would want to personally ask for your number when we are done. I would want to have a chat with you. However, my take on the issue, the issues discussed this morning is that the cathedral issue. I think that we need to be dispassionate about this. We need to be serious with regards to development of our country, Ghana.
Right.
We cannot continue to, see anything to be normal in this country and expect to grow. You see, those countries we go for loans and help, they don't conduct themselves this way. They are prudent, they are very strategic, they plan well, and they sensitize their members as to the need to develop their country first.
Right.
Why is it that our members who probably had, the leaders today, had virtually free everything, have now planned and gone against the country that has given them all these that they have been able to, educate themselves and have for themselves today? Look, we the youth, we need to be angry. We need to be really angry. We are not angry enough.
Thank you.
Yes. It is the reason why I think that you would have a kiosk being the office for the cathedral. Hello.
Moses, you were listening to me on your set, so there was a bit of a delay. But hold the line and maybe give your number to my producers. That way I'll be able to get interactive with you. Moses calling from Tamale, capping it off on the AM show for another beautiful morning. Also, we're wishing a happy birthday to Judith Abedu, formerly of the Multimedia Group. Judith, a very happy birthday to you. And that's how we're capping off the show this morning. Joy News Desk is up next. From us to you, we're grateful for your time. Have a good day.